Question of the day. What is your favorite Pokemon in Paldea? Hey guys, how's it going? Just chilling here with little Bingo. We're about to go to class. We're about to go to Mr. Jock's class and take a biology course, but not really, because instead we're just gonna be going to his class to review the Paldean Pokedex. And that is a big spoiler warning. If you want to keep the Pokedex unspoiled, if you haven't beat the game yet, whatever, I'm gonna be spoiling every single Pokemon that is in the Paldean Pokedex. I won't be going over like story details or anything, nothing else, no gym leaders, nothing. This is just the Pokemon themselves, and I will also say that me personally, I haven't beaten the game yet. I haven't gotten to the end of the game, and I do realize that a lot of these come after you essentially get to the end of the game and after the credits and such. So take this with a grain of salt. I'm going to give some Pokemon the benefit of the doubt because I feel like I was a little too harsh on the Legends Arceus Pokemon, and once I got them and used them, I ended up liking them a lot more. And I think certain screenshots and angles made them look a little worse than they did in the game itself. So I'll try not to be as harsh with Pokemon that that I haven't used yet. So yeah, I'm just gonna, that's my one little rule I'm setting. But again, we're just here to talk about the Paldean Pokemon. I know most of these. I've seen most of them in the game, and especially since I've been grinding Terror Raids, I've been seeing them all around. And I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to review these, and yeah, let's hop right in. Again, we're going to Mr. Jock's class because he technically developed the Pokedex, so it's kind of immersive to be in here looking over Pokedex stuff, because yes, I'm gonna be looking at the pictures in the Pokedex. Their full entry pictures that they have, which is honestly a really cool part of the Pokedex too. And the reason I'm doing that is because as of right now, there has been no official art released other than the 3 starters and like the mascots, I think. Either way, there's a lot of Pokemon that you just kind of have to look at their weird little PNG sprites. And I want to look at something a little bit more professional and official. Let's hop right in, shall we? Sprigatito, the grass cat, okay. So this one's neat because, I like the 3 starters in Paldea. I like them much more than the Galar starters because, sorry to say, I wasn't a big fan of the Galar starters. I think I like Scorbunny and maybe Raboot, but the other ones I'm not really huge on. But I feel like these 3 were just very, very solid. That being said, my least favorite of the 3 was Sprigatito. I just wasn't necessarily excited for a cat. Like, it just looked, I don't know, it just looked like a cat, and I was like, oh man, could you be a little more creative than just another cat Pokemon? It's cute, it has a fun expression, but I wasn't ready to really like this thing. In fact, it's funny, because I ended up choosing Fuecoco just so I could give Nemona a Sprigatito, because I felt like Sprigatito kind of fit her aesthetic, and honestly, now playing through it, I'm like, yeah, actually, I'm very glad I gave you Sprigatito, because it does fit you to a T. I keep saying that too. I'm always like so tempted to say Tito. I'm not gonna do it though, don't worry, I've done it enough on streams. But yeah, it's grown on me. But I don't know if it's because of its evolutions. I'm in a weird state because, okay, let's just hop right into the next one. Yeah, Floragato. I'm in a weird state of mind right now because a lot of people don't like the evolutions from what I see to Sprigatito, and to be fair, we all knew that this was gonna happen. Like, people were saying, like, please don't stand on 2 legs, Sprigatito. It's gonna happen. Please don't do it though. Let's have a Pokemon on all 4s. And while I do think that it would have been more neat to see a Pokemon do that because they all just kind of become, I don't know, I don't want to say furry bait, but I'm gonna say furry bait. Anyway, Floragato. When I saw this thing in game, I actually really liked it. I liked its little Naruto run, and I just think it has a pretty solid design. I like that it's not just a cat anymore. He also has this cool thing where he I don't know, there's gotta be something there. Some inspiration, I don't know what it is though, but it's like a weird yo-yo thing. He has like a flower thing on a string. I'm looking at it right now. I don't know what that is, but it's pretty cool. You can get some pretty cool animations out of it. So yeah, Floragato is a very solid second stage Pokemon, and I'm kind of a fan. Meowscarada. Actually, I wonder if I should address this now. I think this game has a bit of a naming problem. I think the names in this game are oddly bad, and I feel like you could have shortened a lot of them. Like, I feel like once you start getting to like, your character limit starts getting above Fraligator, I'm like, okay, you might have to, I don't know. There's too many syllables in here and it's kind of weird. Anyway, Meowscarada or Scarada. Now, I don't know if it's as solid as Floragato. I feel like it could have taken more of a note from Floragato, but when I saw this thing, I was all in. Like, this thing, people are gonna hate me for this, it just straight up turned into Joker from Persona 5. And, you know, I love Persona 5, and I was just like, okay, you know what? This is really cool. I really like this Pokemon. Now, I'm not usually into the Pokemon that are designed straight up to be fan favorites. Actually, I guess that's a big lie because Greninja totally was designed to be a fan favorite. But you could definitely tell which ones Game Freak gives the priority to because of X and Y. Even if you like Chestnut and Delphox, it was very obvious like Game Freak favored Greninja. And then with Sword and Shield, obvious that Game Freak favored Cinderace because they essentially just gave it Protean again, but with Libero. And once I saw that this thing gets Protean, I'm like, oh, it's the fan favorite. Yeah, that's the one Game Freak's banking on. But yes, I really like this one, and it has a really fun aesthetic too. I have one, and of the three, I think it's the best evolution. Sprigatito went from my least favorite starter to my favorite starter in Paldea because of the evolution path. And I know that's just a me thing, but I really like Meowscarada. I could do without that long name though. Fuecoco. Wow, what a great little Pokemon. I love Fuecoco. I really appreciate that it feels like a different kind of Pokemon. Like, I usually see these Pokemon in like different ways. I don't know, like it feels very Charmander without being a literal Charmander, and it has like a dinosaur aesthetic without necessarily turning into like Tyrant or anything. It's so fun, and he's so friend-shaped, and just, I don't know, like Fuecoco just has a really, really fun design. I want to say it's the best of the three, but I actually really like Quaxly as well. But wow, I love Fuecoco. It's so good, man. And it's like, it's just designed to be a plushie. Like, it's just got that simple design. It's just designed to be a plushie. Crocalor. So once I saw that Fuecoco was kind of going down that path, I kind of felt like the Sprigatito fan base where I'm like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I do get what this Pokemon is supposed to be. So I guess what it's doing is that it has a nest on its head, and the little fire thing becomes a soul that it keeps on its nose in its final evolution. I mean, out the gate, I gotta give it 10 out of 10 for creativity, because that's a really interesting idea. But I don't know, I think the head thing looks just a bit too tacky. And it's funny, because if it wasn't for the head thing, I feel like I would like Crocalor a little bit more, because I just feel like it still has that Fuecoco energy, it just has bigger eyes now. And I don't know, once I saw where this was going, I wasn't really much of a fan, but I still appreciated it, still felt like Fuecoco. Now, Skeledirge. This one, okay, it's so hard because I want to like this one so much, but it's just so difficult for me because, one, it just doesn't have the Fuecoco energy, which, you know, I get it, Final Evolution, they hardly ever carry the same energy. That's why I don't like Sceptile as much as Trico, that's why I don't like other starters as much as their first evolutions, because they just don't have that same energy, you know, like Oshawott and such. I knew that Fuecoco was going to turn into something completely different by the end of his evolution path, and I don't know. Okay, let's just start with the positives. So, first off, this thing is actually on all fours. I appreciate that there's finally a crocodile Pokemon that is on all fours. That's actually really cool. And seeing this thing run around behind you, it's just cool. It's like, finally, we have a crocodile on all fours, and it shoots fire. I mean, how much cooler can you get? And I think it is Fire Ghost, right? Wait, no, I need to look into that before I start making brash assumptions. Yes, it is Fire Ghost. Wow, its ability ability is unaware. But yeah, I love that it's on all fours. I think it's got a cool kind of aesthetic going with like the thing on its nose is like a different soul that was born. That's where like the ghost part comes in. And it's like a reference to the little birds that perch up on crocodiles' noses. Like, that's actually a really cool idea. It's a really, really cool idea. And it also sings. I feel kind of neutral towards that because, like, I saw the animation of it holding up the mic. I think it's called Torch Song, and it's cool, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know. I'm very neutral towards that part. Now, in terms of the negatives, I feel like this guy's design is a bit cluttered. It has a little bit too much color in spots, and it makes it look very tacky. The purple doesn't really mesh with the red that much, and the fire coming out of its mouth looks a bit too weird. I don't know. It just looks cluttered. It just looks like a very cluttered Pokemon. And I'm sad because I feel like just with a little bit of a redesign, you could really touch it up a bit. Like get rid of some of those stripes, make it more of a consistent color across the board, and maybe don't put the fire there. Just keep the fire on the nose or somewhere else. I feel like you would have a solid evolution, but as Skeledirge turned out, I don't know, I can't help but feel disappointed. I'm sorry. I know people really like Skeledirge. I don't know. I mean, is it bad? No, but it's not gonna be one of my like favorite starters ever. Not to mention, it's weird because we all thought this thing would become a ghost pepper, and it's funny because yes and no, it became a ghost type, but I don't think it's supposed to be a pepper. That's another Pokemon. It's just kind of interesting because it was almost like you were almost there. Quaxly. I really like Quaxly, and seeing it become apparently the least popular of the three, that actually surprised me. I thought this thing had just a very, very solid design, honestly. For a duck starter, it feels like a no-brainer. It's just like, yeah, it's a cute little duck, you know? It's got those blue feet, and it's got that blue pompadour. I just thought it was just very cute. It was just a very, very cute starter, and man, I mean, I know they all look cute at the start of the game when they're all like running after you, but man, Quaxly really does sell it. I don't know. Something about Pokemon that are just confident is just, and they're like little tiny guys, is just the cutest thing ever to me. And yeah, Quaxly he's great. He is a great little starter. I really like Quaxly. Quaxwell. When I first saw this thing, I was confused, but then I was just kind of like, okay, if Quaxly was to go a direction, this makes sense for it to go this way. It turned very humanoid, but at the same time, I was like, well, what was I expecting? I think Quaxwell's fine. Honestly, I didn't spend too much time with Quaxwell because I think like all of its features sort of just get multiplied when it turns into its final form. So unfortunately, it leaves this one a little bit forgettable, if that makes sense. I know it's a weird thing to describe, but I feel like it doesn't really carve itself a niche between like Quaxly and its final evolution. Like, I feel like some second evolutions can do that, where its design is so striking, and then when it gets to its final design, it doesn't look like that. But some second stages kind of turn into the third stages, and then it's just like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, for example, Ivysaur turning into Venusaur. Yeah, very kindred to each other, and it kind of makes you kind of forget about Ivysaur a little bit. But Wartortle has those weird, like, ears and tail thing. So, turning into Blastoise, you don't really forget about Wartortle, if that makes sense. Unfortunately, Quaxwell just kind of feels caught in the middle, and it's kind of sad, because I actually do like Quaxwell. Now, okay, this is gonna be the weird part. Quaquaval. Okay, that's a cool name. Quaquaval. I don't know, because the point of this Pokemon is to be loud. Its design is supposed to be really loud and expressive. That is the entire point of the Pokemon. It just doesn't really fit anything I like, but it's still very cool. Like, it's very cool seeing this thing in action with all of its animations and such, which, by the way, Game Freak got so much better at in this one. The Pokemon are super expressive in this one. It's very appreciated because that's been a critique against the jump to 3D for years. But yeah, Quaquaval just, yeah, I love how it like dances. I love its little signature move. It feels very fitting for Paldea too. It's just a very colorful Pokemon. Again, I don't think it matches my aesthetic, but I can appreciate this thing exists. It's fun. I don't know. It's just a very pretty cool looking final Quaxly evolution, and I think I could be pretty satisfied with how Quaxly ended, even if it didn't become one of my favorite starters of all time. Lechonk. Yeah, Lechonk. Cool. It's weird because a thought jumped into my mind that I heard against Scarlet and Violet is that a lot of the Pokemon just kind of feel like animal, but a Pokemon, essentially, with just very minimal design choices. And I feel like Lechonk is getting there, but I do feel like Lechonk does have enough to it to make it a Pokemon. Like, that's a pretty cool little pig, I'd say. Very friend-shaped, very cute, very cool looking eyes. I love its ears. Its ears like kind of go up and down too. It's very expressive as well. And I don't know, seeing it in the wild and it reacting to you when you walk up and it just looks like shocked, but also kind of like curious. I just think Lechonk is just very solid. It's a very cute Pokemon that you find on your little journey. You might not keep it, but it's cute. It's cute. I like it. Oinkologne. Yeah, you can see little Lechonk into the bottom right. Yeah, I love that expression. It's cool how, from what I see, there are gender differences between the two. I'm always a sucker for when Pokemon does that because it just makes the Pokemon just feel more real when they have gender differences. Yeah, I think Oinkologne does enough. Yeah, it's pretty much just Lechonk, just a little bigger with a little bit more features. Yeah, I think it's good. I think that's it though. I'm just like, yeah, you're a good evolution, but that's it. Like, I'm just like, okay, there's nothing really all too striking with Oinkologne. It's just like, cool, you're just a feminine pig, or you're just a pig. I don't know. God, I feel so bad because I feel like some people are gonna be like, that's my favorite Pokemon ever. And here I am just being like, yeah, it's fine. Tarountula. It's cute. It's interesting because I feel like the bugs up to this point were a little bit more striking, and they always had something to kind of keep your interest, but this is kind of the first bug in a while where I didn't really remember it as much. Again, sorry to be so negative, but I'm thinking of other bugs, such as the X and Y bug. I forgot the worm that evolved into Vivillon. The cool thing with Vivillon is that you could get all those different patterns, and it made it a very, very memorable Pokemon. And then for Sun and Moon, we had the Charjabug line, which I do realize Charjabug is the second evolution, but it was just a very cool line that just kind of became a cool like electric bug thing, and Charjabug kind of had the cool accordion kind of sound effect too. Very memorable. And Sword and Shield, at first you look at that bug and you're like, oh god, that thing is really boring, but then it becomes a UFO and a bug psychic type. That was a really fun idea. Even if you don't use Orbeetle, that was a very fun idea. Now for the regional bug of Paldea, I do feel like Tarountula it's just not enough. We've had a couple spider Pokemon up to this point, and having one that just kind of has web, it's just like, okay, cool. You kind of just feel like Spinarak Part 2, where I'm not a huge Spinarak fan either. I don't know. There could have been a little bit more going on with Tarountula, or at least maybe make it a 3-stage. Because the weirdest part about this is that I tried catching Pokemon in Paldea and not necessarily forming a team. I just kind of used what I used to just to get a grasp of what the Pokemon were like here. And it evolves very quick. It evolves at level 15, which is fine, but then it stops. And it's like, oh, I guess we're done, you know? Which would be fine if it was a 3-stage like Caterpie, but it just evolves once and it's done. I don't know. I feel like there could have just been a little bit more with this line to make it work. And Spidops. See, I like that design. It's not just, hey, here's a spider. It actually is doing something a little fun. Like, I like how it's making a little web net. He's fun, and he's got a cool expression, too. Oh, you know, it's funny because I called this the regional bug, but I forgot about the other regional bug. We'll get to them in a bit. But yeah, Spidops, so far in my playthrough, not really all too memorable for me. Maybe I need to do a second playthrough and maybe pick up Spidops to see what he can do. You know, it's funny because that name is actually really cool too, Spidops. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a reference to Black Ops, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just grasping at straws here. Let's just move on. I have nothing really to say, unfortunately. Nymble, okay. So this is actually the regional bug that I do prefer over Tarountula. Nymble's actually pretty cool. It's a little grasshopper, and he has this like weird robot aesthetic a little bit. Like, okay, it's not like literally a robot. We'll get to those. But I think he's cute. I think this is a pretty good little regional bug, and having one based on a grasshopper is pretty cool. I hate grasshoppers in real life, but having Nymble around, he's pretty cool. Now, I do think that Lokix is when this Pokemon hits its stride. This thing is cool. When I evolved Nymble into this thing, I was shocked. I'm like, that is a really cool Pokemon. And it's, I don't know, it's fun that he's so small still, but he looks like he would destroy you. And he's a bug dark type. I really like this guy. He is a lot of fun. And hey, Lokix is actually a really cool name too. Like a locust who kicks. I'm into it. When I do a second playthrough, I actually really want to try to grab one of these because they are fun whenever I see them in the wild. I would love to see what this thing can do because it's I don't know, I love its design. I love its design a lot. Pawmi. How do I go about Pawmi? Because I like it, yet I don't. Okay, because out the gate, what do I not like about it? It's the Pikachu clone, it's the Pikachu ripoff, and I don't know if Game Freak has just gotten more obvious over the years with the Pikachu ripoffs, but it is funny because this thing, it has the electric cheeks, it has the eyes, and I don't know, it just feels like another Pikachu. But I think it does do pretty good at striking its own niche because it becomes like a little fighting guy. I think it's cute. You could do worse than Pawmi, and I saw a couple people using Pawmi unironically, so yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. I want, a part of me does want to kind of use Pawmi on my own because I do like how this Pokemon turns out after a while, and I don't hate Pawmi. I think it is cute. I'm just like, if I'm using the Pikachu clone, and if it's not like Mimikyu or something, I should just probably use Pikachu because Pikachu just has a little great design, you know? Anyway, let's move on to Pawmo. So this thing is weird because I'm just gonna shoot back and forth. When I first saw this thing, I actually didn't know that it wasn't a Pawmi. I had to be told that it was a different Pokemon. And I don't think that's necessarily cool because it's literally a Pawmi that's standing up, which, I do know that there are definitely Pokemon evolutions that aren't necessarily creative, such as like Magneton and Dugtrio, but I was kind of hoping Pawmi would get a little bit of something here. I mean, I guess its nails kind of come out a little bit, and I think its hair kind of changes a little bit. Oh, it does change color, that's right, it becomes a little bit more pale. I don't know, I feel like it could have did a little bit more. I don't really have a lot to say about Pawmo, really. Yeah, not really. Again, it's just kind of like a standing Pawmi. Now, Pawmot. Now that one I actually kind of like, because you could, if Pawmi evolves straight up into Pawmot, I think I would prefer that because that's much more of a striking Pokemon, and you could tell like, oh yeah, that's what Pawmi became with like the hair changes and the tufts of hair around the ears and all that. Like, I think that's cool. And having this thing be a big electric fighting type is also very fun as well, because we don't really get a lot of electric fighting types, do we? Actually, wait, is this the first electric fighting type? Because that's actually a type I've wanted for a while. I just don't really talk about it so much because it's not necessarily an interesting type. It's just like, okay, cool, electric fighting. Let's look. Electabuzz should be electric fighting. I'm surprised it's not. Really? Okay, wait. Oh my god, this thing is the first electric fighting type. Hey, that's cool. I'm into that. Okay, that's fun. I'm definitely glad they took some time to finally make that a type too, because I think that that's something really cool that Game Freak should explore more, is that if there are types that haven't been explored, that could serve as great inspiration for newer Pokemon, and we'll get to probably one of my favorites this gen a little bit later. But yeah, Pawmot's really solid. I'm not a huge fan of the middle form, but I think it's a pretty cute little line we got there. I mean, the picture here makes it look better because I love the stages of growth there. I just think it could have been conveyed a little bit better, personally. Not to mention this thing is a nightmare to evolve. So I haven't been able to kind of appreciate Pawmot as much as I wanted to. Paldean Wooper. So I'm just gonna toss in Paldean Wooper and the other forms in this. Even though, actually, wait a minute. Is Paldean Wooper literally the only regional form we have in this? Hold the phone. Wait, really? Okay, no, that can't be, right? Okay, I'll have to figure this out later. Anyway, Paldean Wooper is pretty cute. It's just Wooper. but it's funny how they just kind of made its cheek things different, like a different shape, and they turned it chocolate colored. And it's cute. I don't know, like Wooper is a very cute design, and it's a fan favorite for a reason, and it's cool to just see Wooper again. I do like Wooper, and it was very fun to just raise one, because I don't think wait, did I ever raise a Wooper? No, I never did, that's right, because I think the last time I used Quagsire was in Pokemon Coliseum, and you just straight up get a Quagsire, not necessarily a Wooper. So it was very fun using a little Wooper. Clodsire, I kind of called it. Okay, I didn't really call it. It wasn't a hard predict or anything. But I kind of thought in my mind where I'm just like, I think Wooper's gonna get a regional evolution. I don't think it's gonna be Paldean Quagsire. And yeah, Clodsire, I think Quagsire is better than Clodsire, but still Clodsire's fine. He is the truest mudfish ever, and having a Quagsire that's literally just on the floor now, it's not bad design by any means. I just think Quagmire's just better, honestly. A part of me does wish we got Paldean Quagsire instead, but you know what? Clodsire's not bad. It's not bad at all, so. But I think the thing is with Clodsire as well is that I've seen this design before. I've seen Mudfish Pokemon many times, and I don't know, it doesn't do enough for me to like treat it like, think it's super memorable or anything, which is kind of sad, but hey, Paldean Wooper, that was a pretty cool little idea they had. Tandemaus. I really like these two. I really like this Pokemon. Now, it's a strange idea, but what I see with Paldea is that there are just a lot of strange ideas this game has, and it's cool to see them like come to fruition. This is probably one of the strangest regions I've seen in recent years, and I think it's because of Pokemon like this. It feels like Game Freak kind of had these ideas kind of just in a box somewhere, like just really, really weird ideas, and then they just started pulling them out and going through them. So the whole gimmick with this Pokemon is that the theme of it is family, and it's gonna be hard talking about this Pokemon without talking about the other one, but I like how this Pokemon they're just a couple. It's just two little identical little mice that you catch, and they're a couple. And I think they have very cute designs. I really appreciate that they're not just mice. I really don't like it when Pokemon are just animals and that's it. They are very, very unique little mice creatures, and we don't actually get a lot of mice in Pokemon. I know that sounds weird because of Pikachu, but Pikachu doesn't really strike me as a mouse. This thing looks like a mouse, and it's very cute. Also, it has the expression where it opens its mouth, and oh my god, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. This thing is pretty much guaranteed a spot on my second playthrough when I do one. And I forgot how you evolve it, but it subtly evolves, I guess, from what I see. If you just have it in your party, it will just evolve on its own, and you're like, oh, hey, you evolved. Yeah, Maushold, which, oh my god, I love that name. I love it so much. This is such a cute Pokemon idea, because it becomes a little family. It becomes a little family of mice. Look at them. Look at the little family of mice. I love these little guys. It's so cute. Unfortunately, the picture is not really showing the 3-form version of it, because there's a 3rd form version of these guys. I don't necessarily know the difference, but I should look it up real quick. Interesting, so judging based on Cerebi, Maushold's form is dependent on its evolution. 1 in 25 Tandemaus have a chance of it evolving into a family of 3. Interesting. I'm just trying to see if there are any pros or cons to it having a family of 3 versus a family of 4. Because you think the family of 4 one would be stronger, but family of 3 is rarer. So is it better? Okay, I looked everywhere. It doesn't look like these Pokemon have differences, at least in stats, between the different forms of this. It looks like it's just aesthetic. If you personally know like the difference between the 2 forms, please let me know. I would love to know. But as of right now, I love these things. And I love how they look like little stuffed mice, kinda. Like they have like very, very like traditional plushie status. Very, very good Pokemon set here. They feel like they would be from like Undertale Deltarune. They kind of have the aesthetic a bit. Like if you just threw this into like the game as an NPC, I would totally buy it. Fidough! Oh, I love little Fidough. Oddly enough though, my favorite part of Fidough is that little expression. That little resting frown is so cute. And then I love how it kind of has doe eyebrows. It just looks very distressed, but in a cute way. Like it has those puppy dog eyes. Like it's the definition of puppy dog eyes. And man, just making a little dog based on a pastry, that was just hardwired to get right into our brains and just love the crap out of this thing. Fidough is so dang cute. And of course it's a fairy type, because what else would it be? Though, oddly enough, it's not a normal fairy, which it's kind of funny. I don't really like normal being applied to a lot of Pokemon because it kind of feels weird and almost like they can't commit. But this thing, I would actually be okay if it was a normal fairy, personally. Also, I love this little photo of them buying pastries and then Fidough's off to the side. I want to know what's going through his mind right now. I have to know. Is it fear? Dachsbun. Now, I mean, is it as good as Fidough? Nah, not really. But hey, you know, what are you gonna do? You had to evolve Fidough, and it was gonna become a bigger pastry dog made out of buns. It's cute, it's cute, it's cute enough. Yeah, I like that it looks cooked. That's actually a cool idea. I'm glad that it's not just Fidough. Like, Fidough is like raw dough, and this one is like, it's been in the oven, so that's fun. You know, they should have had a evolution method like that. That would have actually been really cool. Like, Fidough, if it gets to like level 30 and it gets hit by a fire move or something, it'll evolve into Dachsbun. Oh, that would have been cool. But to be fair, there's been like weird evolutions this generation, so maybe that would just be a little bit too much. But yeah, it's cute. It's cute. Smoliv! Oh man, my favorite genre of Pokemon right here. I don't know what it is about stubby Pokemon with no hands and arms and just stubby little feet that are just an existential crisis, but man, I just love it. Like this, Fidough and Bonsly, like they just have my heart. And yeah, Smoliv just, oh, look at Smoliv. I could look at this thing all day. It is the cutest thing. Now, is it literally just an olive? Kinda. But hey, you know, for a first stage, I think it's okay to be pretty simple for the first stage, honestly. I really like it. Now, I've gone on record saying that this thing kind of looks like a Heartless, and I think that's kind of why I like it. Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. Like, you could literally slap the Heartless logo on this thing and then say it's like, yeah, it's one of the Heartless you fight in, like, I don't know, Tangled or something. And I'd be like, yeah, that's about right. It looks like a Heartless. Dolliv. Yeah, pretty cute, pretty cute. I don't want to keep using this analogy, but I do feel like it's that same thing of like, well, if Smoliv had to evolve, fine. But you know what? As a follow-up to Smoliv, it's pretty good. I guess it's just weird because, like, I've seen this Pokemon so many times before of just like, hey, it's the grass little thing and it's gonna evolve into like a one wearing a dress and clothing. It's like, okay, cool. It just kind of looks like Lilligant, but it's cute. It's cute. A Bolova. Now, this one I do think is very creative. It's more creative than the other one, I think. I think Dolliv was a very safe choice, but this is a very expressive choice. I like the little olives coming out of its, I don't want to call them vines, but what would you call that? Anyway, it's a cool looking Pokemon, and I like that there's a lot of color in there too. Like, you could see the tree roots, and you could see its eyes. It has this weird, like, meditation kind of feel to it. And it's the leaves on its head kind of look like tufts of leaves. It's pretty cool. I'm really into this thing. Now, I mean, do they all live up to Smoliv? No. But to be fair, it was just like, yeah, that thing is so dumb and simple that, like, of course you had to do more with it, you know, if you were gonna evolve it. Ooh, this thing has Harvest. That's actually a really fun ability. I like that ability. Squawkabilly. I don't know. I'm trying not to hate on so many Pokemon because I do like this gen, like I said. I just kind of see this thing as worse Chatot. Like, it just kind of feels a little less creative, and what they did want to do to make it feel unique is give it like a Pompadour, but not in a good way. Okay, I'm sure these things are based on very specific kinds of birds, and having 4 different colors of them, that's a fun idea too. I don't know. There could have been a little bit more done with Squawkabilly, I think. Maybe if you like bunched them up a little bit. Oh, but then again, Tandemaus already took the idea, so I guess you can't really do that. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the thing that's really weird about Squawkabilly is that you look at this thing and you're like, oh, the regional bird. But it's not the regional bird. That's actually another bird later on. It just kind of, I don't know if it's becoming like a weird subgenre of having like a far-fetched bird per generation, where it's just like, hey, we're just gonna introduce this kind of like weak bird that doesn't evolve or anything. Because they did that with Farfetch'd and then Chatot, and now we kind of have Squawkabilly in here. But yeah, I don't know, not my favorite. I do love the colors though. Knackley. Okay, this thing's fun. I like Knackley. Shamelessly, it is like a mushroom from Mario, but I don't care. It's fine and cute. I like it. Also, it's really cool because this thing, especially when it evolves, kind of has that feeling of Minecraft. Now, I don't think it's fair for me to talk about Minecraft so much because I wouldn't consider myself a Minecraft fan in the slightest, but the cube look is fun, and it's a rock salt. That's fun. This is fun. You could have made this thing just so boring if it wasn't like a cube or didn't have like a cube 8-bit feel to it, but the fact that they did that makes it really memorable. I feel like that's just kind of what you have to do with the rocks now, because Roly Coly did that, where they're like, hey, instead of making a coal rock, let's make one with wheels, and I really like that idea. And it kind of felt like that again, where it's like, hey, instead of just making a rock, why don't we have it kind of go for like an 8-bit Minecraft cube feel? It's fun. It's fun. Otherwise, you kind of get Roggenrola again, which, you know, I don't mind the Roggenrola family, but it's definitely not like breaking new ground or anything, even if it is based on like stalagmites, I think. Or is it stalactites? Gosh dang it, I always forget that. Knacklestack. Okay, so I kind of just explained why I like this line, so it's kind of weird to bring it up now. But yeah, Knacklestack, it's just more of what I like about the original form. It's just more cube. It's cool. Garganical. Okay, I mean, picture aside, the picture is really funny. This thing is cool. I like that it's like a little weird mountain rock salt monster thing. Like, it looks like a monster, and it's very easy to forget with Pokemon that they're technically pocket monsters. And this thing looks like a pocket monster. I think it was a very fun theme to go for. It was a very, very fun theme to go for. I wonder if this thing's good, because it looks like it would beat you up and take your lunch money. Whoa. Oh, man. Its ability is cool. It has this ability called Purifying Salt. So this Pokemon can't be statused. What? It just can't be statused. Oh, and not just that. Ghost power against it is half. So Ghost is not very effective against this thing. Are you kidding me? That's actually cool too, because isn't there like a weird thing where like salt can repel like spirits or something? I don't know if I'm like overthinking it a bit, but that's actually really cool. What a great little line here. I also really like this Pokemon's naming convention too, because it has NaCl in it, which is the chemical formula for sodium chloride. That's really fun. That's really creative and fun. Yeah, what a great Pokemon line. Annihilate! It's becoming funny at this point how many Pokemon just die, and that's like what gives them a power up. Because it seemed like that happened a lot in Hisui, as well as Galar to an extent, where it's just like, hey, let's take a Pokemon from before and either give them a Ghost-type regional form or just evolve them with a Ghost method and call it a day. But to be fair, with Primeape, it makes sense. It was kind of a weird meme in the community, kind of underground a little bit. It wasn't like super popular or anything, but everyone just kind of found it funny that Primeape, its Pokedex entry says that it just gets so angry that it dies. And having a Pokemon evolution that capitalizes off that, that's actually kind of clever and really fun. And I think the thing is with Primeape as well, I've always really liked Primeape. It's actually one of my favorite fighting types from Kanto, if not my favorite. I've never really been into the other ones. Actually, no, Hitmonlee's pretty cool. Anyway, Primeape has always been fun. I've always liked it ever since Ash had one. I always thought it was just a really fun Pokemon type. Also, Mankey is adorable. So seeing it have something finally is really cool, but I always looked at Primeape and was just like, what can you do with it? Like, there's not much you could do with Primeape, unless you like kind of like ruffle its hair or something. I think this Pokemon does just enough to make Primeape into something special. I love how its eyes are just blood red now. His rage broke. And his hair is insane. He looks like the Tasmanian devil now. It's so fun. This is such a fun evolution to Primeape. Also, I think this is the first in the Pokedex of Pokemon that evolve that aren't regional. And oh my god, I've missed this. I actually didn't really like that in Galar. I like that they evolved, don't get me wrong, but I didn't really like how Pokemon evolved based on regional forms, because that always kind of threw me off, because it kind of felt like, it's like, oh cool, Lanoon evolves into Obstagoon, but you just kind of screwed the original Lanoon, essentially. And Corsola as well. Like, cool, you evolved Corsola into Cursula, but now Jotonian Corsola doesn't get anything, and same with Farfetch'd, essentially. I like that this thing just evolves from a Primeape. That's fun. Thank you for doing that. I know it's a move that it can only learn in Paldea, but like, for the future, we don't have to worry about like, oh, it's not a regional form or anything. It's just what happens to Primeape now, essentially. Which, by the way, this game, just a little side note, I don't know how I feel. I know the Hisuian forms are coming back, at least some of them are, but it's weird because Pokemon there was like an unspoken rule where if a Pokemon evolved or had a baby form, Game Freak would put them all in the game. Like, for example, if they brought back Pikachu and Raichu, they had to bring back Pichu because you have to. It's part of the line. And they never really, like, copped out on that at all. I mean, especially, you know, after the whole Dexit shenanigans. But this one, they started doing that. Not necessarily the baby Pokemon, but I got Stantler's Pokedex entry, and Weirdeer isn't in it. And it's like, oh, is Weirdeer even gonna be in this game? That's kind of a shame. So, I don't know. Oh, but then again, wait a minute. That wasn't even a Hisuian Stantler. Oh no. Okay, I don't want to get too negative. Let's move on. Charcadet. I didn't have this thing spoiled, and I'm so glad, because when I saw it, I was just confused. I was just like, wait, is that the Armarouge Ceruledge pre-evolution? It's just Armarouge and Ceruledge, but as a sassy lost child. It's so funny, because it's literally them, just with a small body. It's Chibi. It's so funny. And there is one that you meet in the story. Okay, I don't know. I literally said I wouldn't spoil story stuff, but when you see them run and see them so determined, it's just like the funniest thing because it's just so small. Charcadet is like so cute and funny. Like, I love this little guy. That being said, they are ridiculously hard to catch, so good luck catching a Charcadet. For some reason, I struggled trying to catch mine, and it took a while. Armarouge, the Fire Warrior Pokemon. Ooh, so cool, so cool. It's funny going from Charcadet to Armarouge because, again, the helmet is exactly the same. I mean, there's a little bells and whistles attached to it, but it's pretty much just Charcadet again, but in a good way. Yeah, I actually really like Armarouge. I think Armarouge is awesome. Now, I definitely was also in the Ceruledge camp when I first saw the two of them, and a lot of people still like Ceruledge more. I don't know what happened, but I prefer Armarouge. Like, I think this thing looks awesome, and I'm using it in my playthrough, and I like this guy. Like, I think it's just fun that he's so unabashedly unique. Like, his colors are so bright, and he just looks so dang cool for essentially no reason. I guess that's my one knock against Armarouge and Ceruledge, and this is gonna be the most, like, stupid criticism ever, is that I think they're too cool. I think they're too cool for being early Pokemon that you can get. Honestly, I kind of would have just turned these two into the pseudo-legendaries if I'm being frank, but at the same time, they are very fun, and they are very cool. I shouldn't explore that topic more, but for example, Gallade. They essentially look like Gallade, but Gallade kind of has a more subtle appearance to it, I'd say. These two are just very, 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 like, epic looking Pokemon, and For not being pseudo-legendaries, it's kind of surprising. This thing is like Mega Man, especially with its signature move, Arm Cannon. Wait, I think it's Arm Cannon. Is it Armor Cannon? Either way, it does a thing where it just straight up does a Mega Man blast, and it's so rad. I've been having a ton of fun with Armorurge on my team. And yes, I did have to trade for the auspicious armor to get Armorurge because I'm playing Violet. Ceruledge. I do want to do a playthrough with Ceruledge because as much as I prefer Armorurge, this thing is still really cool. It's a fire ghost Pokemon with like a cool helmet that has like scars on it, and it has like fire blades. Do you get what I'm saying where they're almost too cool? This thing is fun. They're both so much fun. Yeah, it's got that Mega Man kind of feel to it. I've heard Digimon brought up a couple times, but I don't want to talk on behalf of the Digimon fanbase, so I won't. I guess there's not really much to say about Ceruledge because it and Armorurge are very much cut from the same cloth, so. Tadbulb. I appreciate that the frog this generation actually feels unique. I don't usually like the toad Pokemon in Pokemon. I'm not usually a big fan. I just feel like they all kind of feel a bit samey, but I actually like the frogs in this one. I like Tadbulb because it's not just a tadpole, it's one that floats and it's a light bulb. That's a really fun and creative idea. And you could see them like hovering about. That's cool. That's a cool idea right there. And I'm a fan. Though I do think it's funny that the Pokedex entries just can't decide about categories of Pokemon, essentially, because this thing's called Eletadpole. Eletadpole. It's like, what do you mean Eletadpole? Do you mean electric tadpole? Why don't you just say electric tadpole? Are you trying to be creative? Are you trying to make a little Pokemon name there? Also, where are you getting tadpole from? There's no such thing as a tadpole in this world. Bellybolt. It's funny because I actually didn't really like this thing when Iono revealed it. I thought it was a bit underwhelming, but playing through the game, I'm a fan. He is fun. He is very friend-shaped. He's very cool. He just feels very huggable. And I like how his belly has a little electric kind of piece in it. And you see the electricity charging through it. It's kind of like the idea they started with the Poliwag line, because I guess it's a weird reference to how you could see frogs' organs, and that's weird. But it's cool how you can see electricity charging in Bellybolt. That's really rad. Also, its ability is really fun. Electromorphosis, where if you hit it, it gets a free charge. No one likes charge and no one uses charge, but that's a cool ability. I don't know, man. This is probably one of my favorite frogs in a while, if I'm being frank. Because I'm not usually into the frog Pokemon, but this thing is awesome and it could definitely stay. Oh, but then again, I guess Greninja counts as a frog. Oh, never mind, Greninja, I forgot. Yeah, you could stay. You could stay too. You and Bellybolt are gonna be best friends when you arrive in Paldea. Wattrel, oh my god, this Pokedex picture. Oh god, they're gonna come kill me, oh my goodness. Look at those things. This thing definitely feels like it's gonna say mine, whenever I have food or something, but it's still cool. It's still cool. It's a petrol Pokemon, a petrol, a storm petrol. Oh, interesting. It's a seabird, huh? I actually didn't know that. That's cool. No wonder it looks like it was gonna say mine. It's cute. For a first stage bird, I think it fits the bill. Oh my god. Pun unintended. But yeah, it fits the bill, and I don't know if it's an electric flying type, but making a regional bird that's electric flying is a lot of fun, because I think they did realize after X and Y that they needed to after Black and White, they needed to start making Pokemon with little gimmicks, so they made Fletchling, which became Talonflame, which is a huge fan favorite. And then Toucanon was really cool, even though I think it was also normal flying. Corviknight needs no introductions, and this one kind of continues the trend of like, hey, we're gonna have a little fun type attached to the regional bird. That's fun. Now, Kilowattrel. This one makes me sad, because I actually raised this one. I want to like this thing so badly, but I don't really like it. My problem with Kilowattrel is there just isn't enough cool stuff with it. It looks very basic, especially in combat, and it's kind of shocking. Oh my god, stop with the puns. It's kind of shocking because I thought they kind of had this down to a T with their creative designs. Like Talonflame, you could tell, it's like, whoa, that is a firebird. And Toucanon is like a cool, angry toucan, and Corviknight has like armor on it. This thing literally looks like a bird, but yellow. And that's disappointing. I saw someone call this the electric Swellow, and I couldn't agree more. This thing is literally just a yellow Swellow, and I don't really like Swellow all that much, even though I'm, you know, the biggest Hoenn fan in the world. I'm not a big fan of Swellow. It's super boring, I think. And it's only a 2-stage. I wish Kilowattrel did a little bit more, just a little bit more. Maybe like lightning hair or something. I don't know, just something. I wanted to like this thing so badly, and it made me sad because electric flying is like a really good type combination too. I would have loved to have a little Diet Zapdos on my team. Would have been a lot of fun. Dunsparce. Okay, so I'm not gonna be super harsh, so don't worry. I know what this thing is, and okay, well, first off, Dunsparce is like the most infamous Pokemon ever because everyone was saying for years, why doesn't this thing evolve? Why doesn't this thing evolve? Literally since its inception, everyone has been like, why doesn't this thing evolve? And it's funny because I think Game Freak all these years was just saying, well, it's not meant to evolve. This thing is dumb. It's literally called Dunsparce. Dunce. Sparse. It's not cool. Stop thinking it's cool. But everyone begged and pleaded, please give Dunsparce an evolution. Well, they did, and oh my god, I wish I caught this on stream so much, or at least recorded it or something, but I didn't get the Dunsparce spoiled. I learned that Dunsparce got an evolution, but I didn't look it up. I knew immediately, I'm like, oh my god, I have to evolve this thing before I see it. I want to see this thing. And when it evolved, I just sat there, like mouth agape. Just like, really? What? I don't know what I was expecting. It's literally just a bigger Dunsparce with another segment attached. It's literally just the Dunsparce. Oh my god. It's just, you know, critiquing it as a Pokemon, I can't do that. This thing is like a joke. This thing's a joke Pokemon. I don't know what else to say. And Dunsparce is just, I don't know. I blame us. I blame us for this, honestly. I blame us that we were the ones asking and begging and pleading for Dunsparce to evolve, and Game Freak was like, no, you don't need to worry about it. Dunsparce was never supposed to be special. This is on us. And we deserve it. Dunsparce finally got something. Now we can all shut up. Please don't go asking for a Stunfisk evolution now. Fairy Giraffe. This thing is really good. I really like Fairy Giraffe, because it just solves so many problems for me. So I've never really been a big fan of Girafarig, and I hate it because it kind of felt like Game Freak used their giraffe card and just kind of was like, okay, we made a giraffe Pokemon, now we can move on. And I always felt like Girafarig didn't do enough to constitute being like the giraffe Pokemon. And I always felt for being a giraffe Pokemon, it was just very boring. And it's weird because it had this idea that it didn't utilize. And it was very weird because it's a normal psychic type, and it has this evil tail thing, which looks even scarier in the beta. Oh my god. It just has this weird evil cursed tail, but it's just never really addressed. It's like, okay, cool, that's just Girafarig. And it's like, oh, wow. And it's not really all that good. But finally Girafarig evolved. Thank God it finally evolved. And yeah, this thing is like a giraffe. I appreciate that we finally got a giraffe. A Girafarig. It's so appreciative. It feels like a Alolan Exeggutor all over again, where I'm like, okay, I know Exeggutor's a palm tree, but I want like a palm tree. And then Game Freak was like, all right, this one has like the long neck and everything. And everyone was infinitely grateful for the more obvious palm tree Pokemon. I'm infinitely grateful that we finally have an actual giraffe Pokemon. Thank you, Fairy Giraffe. Now, I do think it is still disappointing this thing isn't like... I think the typing should have changed. I don't get why it's still normal Psychic. I felt from day one the Girafarig line should have been Dark Psychic, but the thing was with Johto is that I was like, okay, this is only the second game in the franchise, and I could tell Game Freak didn't want to go that experimental with their types yet. So I was just like, okay, we'll just save that for later on, a Dark Psychic type. And the fact that we still haven't gotten a Dark Psychic type, I don't know. I just felt like the door was open for Fairy Giraffe and it just walked by. I'm like, no, please, Dark Psychic, please, you're right there. But anyway, yeah, this thing's great. And I love how the dark tail just kind of became a weird hoodie. Like, that's really fun. And I also really like that in combat, it just closes over its face and does like a headbutt. It's so cool looking. I've seen like an animation of it being compared to like Venom from Spider-Man, and oh my god, I don't know. I love this thing. It's cool. It just aids my theory where we've essentially been trying to fix Johto since its conception because all the Pokemon are just very weird and underutilized. Okay, so I just looked it up just to double check, and I do realize there are probably people screaming at their phones right now. So actually, Dark Psychic was filled. I forgot Inkay and Malamar are Dark Psychic types, so I apologize for that, that's on me. I'm just looking up to see, oh, Hoopa is also a Dark Psychic type. Okay, well, Hoopa doesn't count. No one's gonna count Hoopa. Oh, also Bryson, man. Okay, I need to move on. Mastiff. I don't like this thing as much as other people. I think it's fine. I like its evolution way more, but I don't know, like, I think this thing's supposed to be like a 1930s gangster, I think? It's kind of subtle, and you don't really get it unless you're looking at its evolution. But it really does have that like Homer Simpson's kind of like facial hair roundness thing going on, and it has like the side smirk. So, you know what? It's pretty okay. It's pretty okay. Yeah, when I first saw this thing, I did like it. I was just like, okay, hey, you're a little dark dog. Okay, cool. A little bit more obvious than Poochyena, but I'll take it. Well, actually, I don't know. Poochyena has that really dark coloring. I guess it's not really all too obvious with Poochyena. But I do think it gets pretty overshadowed by Mabostiff. This thing is cool. I really like Mabostiff. It helps because Mabostiff has a very special role in the game, which I will not spoil. But yeah, once that happened, I was like, oh, okay. That was a low blow, but I like this Pokemon now. It was essentially what happened with Nebby from Sun and Moon again, where I was just like, you know, I didn't even like Lunala and Solgaleo, but they immediately shot from like some of my least favorite legendaries to some of my favorites just because of the whole Nebby storyline. But honestly, Mabostiff just looks really cool. Like, he's cool. Like, he kind of has that lion feel to him with the mane, but being just a dark type, he fits the part. Like, his eyes are oddly ominous, and his expression gets oddly ominous too. Okay, is this thing just straight up a reference to The Godfather? Because I think it's a straight up reference to The Godfather, right? Having a Godfather dark type mafia dog is ludicrous and insane, and I love it. So what a great little Pokemon line we have here. I like Mabostiff. Shroodle. Okay, well, I'm not gonna talk about Grafaiai. We're on Shroodle. Oh, this thing's a toxic mouse. Huh. I couldn't pin down. I'm like, what is this thing? Oh, it's a little toxic mouse. It's very derpy. Oddly enough, it feels a little too derpy. Because I'm just like, how do you function? Your legs are like microscopic. You're like a ball with like a big nose and a little tuft of hair. It's not my favorite by any means. I don't know. I think it could have been done a little bit better. I don't dislike it as much as the next one, but yeah, it could have been done better, I think. Grafaiai. I know. The point of this thing is to be ugly, but oh my god, is it ugly. Okay, I mean, no, I don't even think I can call it ugly. Like, honestly, if it had eyes, like actual like pupils, I think I would be a lot more fine with that, but its eyes unironically freak me out. Like, I have a fear of bugs, and bug eyes look like that, and once I saw those things' eyes, I'm like, oh, I don't like this. And it's funny because I can use pretty much all the bugs in Pokemon and not get that triggered, but for some reason Grafaiai got that triggered for me. I wanted to like this thing so much because I love Smeargle, and I was like, cool, another Smeargle. This is fun. I don't know if it gets Sketch. I don't think it gets Sketch because Sketch is so overpowered. But yeah, I wanted to like this thing so much. And if they just touched up the eyes, I would like it more. But I just can't. I don't know. Now, in this miracle wonderland of a world, let's imagine the eyes aren't a factor. I think it has a great design. Now, it's very colorful, but that's the point. It paints stuff, and it's supposed to look like it has paint all over it. So that's a fun idea. Just a little chaotic little monkey that just spreads paint everywhere all over the forest. And when you go into the forests of Paldea, you actually see trees that are caked in that paint. That's a really fun dynamic. It makes me kind of want to see if there would ever be like a Johto remake that had the same thing but with Smeargle, where you could see Smeargle's paintbrushes attached like through the trees. But yeah, as it is, Grafaiai is not really setting any records in my mind. Smeargle still reigns supreme. Which makes me sad because I wish Smeargle was in this game so bad, because I would love to see Smeargle and Grafaiai like working together or going against each other. That'd be fun. Actually, why the heck does this thing not get Sketch? I mean, I know why it doesn't get Sketch, because Sketch is overpowered, but man, if there was ever another Pokemon to give Sketch to, yeah, I guess you need to have a weird paintbrush tail in order to get Sketch, apparently. Again, I get why they don't give it Sketch, but man. Oh, can you imagine if, like, in future DLC, they actually bring back Smeargle, and you could breed down to get a Grafaiai with Sketch? You know what, that would just cause so much chaos, but I'd be for it, please. Paldean Tauros. Okay, so I was wrong. There is technically another regional form. It's not just Wooper. So, okay, Tauros. This thing is cool. I think it's a reference to, like, bowls in Spain or something, which I appreciate that. I appreciate when Game Freak goes back and was like, hey, we did that kind of as a random idea in one of the other generations, so we're just gonna bring it here and just make it more accurate to this region. Like, for example, Executor. Like, they were like, okay, we already made a palm tree Pokemon. Let's just bring it to Alola and then make it an actual, like, big Hawaiian palm tree. Like, that's fun. And I don't know if the black coloring is a reference to anything. I do appreciate their fighting types, though. I'm not usually into fighting types that are just straight up, like, not, like, humanoid. I don't know. I feel like fighting goes hand in hand with a humanoid look. Not Machamp levels, but, like, you know, you could stand on two legs and use your fists and stuff. Tauros getting a fighting type is very fitting. Now, this thing is also very confusing as well, because I don't... Okay, there's different forms of it. I don't know where you find these. I've been looking for them. But yeah, there's the Blaze breed and the Aqua breed, and I'll throw them on the screen right now just so you can see them. Those things look really cool as well. I think that's a cool idea, to be able to just be like, hey, this is a different breed of Tauros and it has a different type attached to it. It's not the most insane choice ever. Like, it's not the most, it won't like rock your world or anything, but it's just a little touch up. If you want to try to use something new, I think that's fun. I think that's a fun idea. I'm definitely glad to see more love for Tauros, because Tauros was always in a weird spot for me, because I'm like, cool, you're a bull, but are you really that cool? Like, you're apparently really strong, but are you really that strong? And you're never really talked about again. You're just kind of there. It felt like a you had to be there moment in Red and Blue, where it's like, this thing was cool. Now it's not. So it's good to see Tauros getting some love. I like Paldean Tauros. Bramblin. I mean, okay, I just will be flat out negative. I do realize that sometimes with Pokedexes you get duds, and this thing is kind of a dud for me. I'm sorry. Because when I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute, is that an actual Pokemon or a Tumbleweed? I didn't get it spoiled. And then I walked over to it and got an encounter. I'm like, oh, a Tumbleweed. Okay. We got a Tumbleweed Pokemon, everyone. Cool. It kind of feels like the Binacle of this game, but even worse. I don't know. I'm not a big Bramblin fan. Sorry for the Bramblin fans out there. Sorry. Brambleghast actually does look cooler, because it does capitalize on the ghost idea, but an actual haunted Tumbleweed. That's really cool. With the context of Brambleghast, I can look at this thing and be like, okay, that's a cool idea. But just judging Bramblin on its own, it's just not enough. But hey, Brambleghast is pretty okay. It can stay. Now, I don't think I'm gonna be using it anytime soon, but again, I kind of feel like it was just a bit of a dud. Toad School. For one, I love that name. It's a great name. Two, the running animation for this Pokemon is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. As someone who didn't really like Tentacool, I keep wanting to call it Tentaschool. Toad School, it's pretty cool. I don't know why I just wanted my weird jellyfish to walk on like 2 legs like it was SpongeBob. I think it does just enough to be like, okay, cool. You revived Tentacool and made it a little bit cooler. Especially as someone who did not really like Tentacool, I can appreciate that. Now, Toedscruel, this thing is cool because I think Tentacruel was always an underutilized Pokemon. Because you essentially have something kind of terrifying on your hands with that beak, and it kind of has the look of like a Kraken or something. But since it's Gen 1, they didn't want to go too crazy with it. I always wanted to see it get like a Mega Evolution or something. I feel like that thing could have been frightening. And I feel like Toedscruel is essentially my idea, like personified, of like, okay, you want something just a little bit more terrifying than Tentacruel? Here you go. This thing being on land with that mouth and that look and the way they like made its body that color and shape, that's cool. Like Toedscruel, this is essentially what I wanted at a Tentacruel, and I really like it. It's very fascinating they're going down this route now of not necessarily regional forms, but Pokemon that split off early in the evolution chain to just kind of become different things. That's actually really cool. And you see that later with Wiglet too, or Wiggler or whatever. So Toedscruel, pretty awesome. I don't know the consensus on these two. I'm just gonna assume it's good. Maybe just because of Toedscruel's funny walk. Cloth. It's Cloth, everybody. I will admit, I think my love for this Pokemon faded a tad because I think it was fun when it was first revealed. And I think it's more fun when you're like looking at it in like artwork and stuff. I feel like actually using it though, it's kind of there. I don't know. It's a very unique looking crab, that's for sure. It's probably one of the more unique crabs in the series, especially with those eyes and like the mouth that just is very cube-like. I think that's cool, but unfortunately I just kind of think Cloth doesn't really do enough. I knew this thing wasn't gonna evolve. Like, it kind of has that flair to it where it's just like, I'm already cool as is, essentially. But what you're left with is just kind of like a rock type. And it's like, oh, well, I think Cloth peaks with Titan Cloth, unfortunately. And then after that, it's just like, okay, cool, Cloth. I don't know. I wanted more love for this thing for sure. Because when I first saw it, I'm like, that thing is funny. I like him, but my love for him kind of faded over time. He's not bad. He's just not at the heights that he once was, for sure. Capsakid. This thing, I wasn't actually a big fan of. Because I saw it, and I was just like, is that like an ugly little bird thing? And it's funny, too, because when I saw it, I actually thought this thing evolved into Squawkabilly. Like, I thought it was a little bird with, like, the egg on its head. I thought that's what it was. It was like a cracked egg on its head, so it's like a little hatchling. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Yeah, this thing by itself, I'm not really too much into, like, the baby-looking Pokemon. I love baby Pokemon, like the literal baby Pokemon, but I don't really like the baby-looking Pokemon, such as Volibee and such. And this thing kind of has that flair to it. I do see that there are Capsakid fans, so maybe I'm missing something here. But yeah, let's talk about the other one now. Yeah, Skullvillain. Oh my goodness. So I didn't get this thing spoiled either, but I faced it in a Pokemon battle, in a very dire one too, and I was like, what is this? And I hit it and I'm like, what type is this? And then I looked and I was like, oh, they did it. They finally made a fire grass type. And oh my god, it is great. Now, I think its design could be a tad bit better, but I don't care. I think it does just enough. This thing is supposed to be like a villain. This thing is supposed to be sinister and kind of twisted and such. And I think it pulls that off pretty well. Kind of has that piranha plant energy to it. And making a spicy pepper Pokemon that's grass fire? Yes, finally, that's so neat. Oh man, I just love that. That's like one of my favorite type combinations. I wish, admittedly, it went to the Fuecoco line, but I get why they didn't do it, because having a fire type turn into a grass type would have made the grass type feel useless by comparison. I get it. I just wish it went to them. But hey, Skullvillain, you're really cool. I like you a lot. I like how this thing is a dark type without being a dark type. I am a villain with this very like evil like Mario enemy flair to me. But I'm just gonna utilize my fire grass type because there's no third type in this game. Unless I terrestrialize, of course. Rellor! This thing is funny. Now, I never thought we would ever get the dung beetle Pokemon. And when I saw it, I'm like, wow, it's an actual dung beetle. They actually made one. Okay. This thing is rolling a ball. It's not of dung. I don't know what it is, but it's essentially a dung beetle. I like how it's upside down. That's really funny. Actually, wait a minute. Do dung beetles, are they upside down when they do that? I always thought they were right side up, but I don't know if that's just because that's a human thing to do. Oh my god. Okay, so I just looked it up. Dung beetles actually do they do a handstand and roll it with their feet. Okay, that's pretty cool. Good attention to detail. This thing is funny. He is cute and he's funny. Now, if this was the regional bug, I would have preferred that way more, because this thing is a lot more fun. I really like Rellor. He's cute. He's a cutie. I also love his evolution method. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Pokemon not falling at an equal pace with you. That is super duper annoying and makes it way harder to do this evolution method, amongst other things. But yeah, you essentially just have to walk with it and help it roll its ball, and when it does that for long enough, it evolves. That's so fun. I love this little guy. He's so fun. And then Rabsca. So I don't know the lore with this thing, but man, look at those eyes. I just love how this thing, it just transcended upon rolling its ball enough. I'm like, is this what dung beetles think would happen if they just did it enough? Where they're just gonna transcend into godhood if they just roll the ball enough? It's funny. It's so funny. Okay, I'm gonna look up the lore with this thing. There has to be some crazy crap going on with this thing. I won't say it. Okay, so Bug Psychic, I already knew that. Let's see. Okay, Pokedex entries. The body that supports the ball barely moves. Ooh, so therefore it is thought that the true body of this Pokemon is actually inside the ball. Ooh. Huh. An infant sleeps inside the ball. Rabsca rolls the ball soothingly with its legs to ensure the infant sleeps comfortably. Okay. I did hear somewhere that it's like a weird reference to reincarnation, which, man, you know, that is just like, that's what I want. That's what I want from my regional bug. Make them weird and make them memorable. Or just memorable, not rememberable. But make them memorable, man. Make them memorable. And yeah, Rabsca's great. For being a little dung beetle, this thing's great. Also, man, I love that he's a scarab. Like apparently he's just straight up based on a scarab beetle from Egypt. That's cool. Makes me think of Aladdin a little bit. Wait a minute. Oh, yes. Okay, shiny Rabsca is gold. Yes! I thought at first, I'm like, oh please, make it gold just like in Aladdin. It is. Oh, that's fun. I love this thing. Flittle. Aw, little Flittle. I like Flittle. That's a cute little one. I like Flittle. I don't know what this thing's supposed to be based on, especially seeing what it evolves into. I thought this thing was gonna go a completely different direction. What is this thing based on? Maybe based on a bird chick. Really? I guess that makes sense. I thought it was like, is it a reference to a dress? It almost looks like a dress. Either way, maybe I'm overreading it. This thing's a cute little fairy type. I like it a lot. Oh, it's a frill. It's literally a frill. Okay, that makes more sense. When I first saw Flittle, by the way, I thought it was a weird, like, dish sponge. Yeah, the Scrubbing Bubbles mascot. It gave off that energy for me. I don't know why I thought of that immediately for Flittle, but that's what I jumped to in my brain. Espathra. Huh. I think this thing is a tad too colorful, but I think if you're evolving from Flittle, you kind of have to be a little bit. I think this thing is really cool, is Pathra. I'm glad they didn't just make an ostrich and call it a day. Like, okay, it does look like it has the Cleopatra kind of look to it, which, judging from the name, that was the point. While the colors are a bit too Dr. Seuss for me, it is still very cool. This thing is pretty cool. Tinkatink. Again, not a big fan of the baby. This with its little lollipop look, it's just kind of like, okay, cool. I don't know. This thing is definitely a case of I need the context of the other Pokemon in its family to like it. Because by itself, I don't think I would have ever liked this thing. But Tinkatuff, that's pretty cool. I like how it has this like weird hammer thing, like made out of stone that it's making. And judging from the line, I guess it's supposed to be a steelsmith line. Like they're blacksmiths essentially, just making their weapons. And it's kind of cool to just see like the growth. Like that's fun. I'm not too much of a fan of the baby, but it's kind of cool to see like the baby was working on it and it just got better and better until finally it's fully evolved and it has its look. But Tinkatuff is also pretty cool. I actually thought Tinkatuff was the final evolution, but I mean, on terms of naming, I know there's one more. Yeah, Tinkaton, that's what I'm thinking of. I actually don't know if I prefer Tinkaton's look with that hammer. Anyway, whatever, that's beside the point. This thing is fun, Tinkatuff. This thing is really fun. It's just this, it's such a weird idea. It's such a weird idea. It's so fun. Because, yeah, they made a steel fairy. Like, by all accounts, you could have just made Tinkaton and then called it done. But the fact that they gave it this large, comical Monster Hunter hammer and just had it smash fools is so good. That's so good, man. I've heard it being compared to Amy Rose, and I can't unsee it, but it is a great idea regardless. It's so fun. And seeing it used in combat too, where it just actually uses the hammer. I think it's called like Gigaton Hammer or something, and it just smashes down. That's so good, man. Also, the shout out to the Pokedex entry where apparently, oh my god, apparently they were gonna set up a Corviknight taxi service in Paldea, just like they did with Galar, but because of Tinkaton, they couldn't because this thing, I don't know if they do it for sport or just they're trying to like hunt them as predators. They just batter rocks into the sky and shoot down Corviknights. And it's just like, it's so mean yet so funny. And I'm like, what do you have against Corviknight? And it's also kind of crazy to see like such an awesome Pokemon like Corviknight being taken down by these. I don't know. I hope that's explored like in the anime or something. I don't know. It's funny to see though, regardless. Wiglet. Again, I'm kind of a fan of this idea where they're making a Pokemon that is not a regional form, but it just evolved a little differently on the chain. And this is kind of like, it's a Diglett, but they're garden eels. That's fun. I think that's fun. Honestly, Diglett alone has such a cute little design in and of itself that it's kind of hard to mess up. And they essentially just made it longer and have it stick farther out of the ground and just turned it into a garden eel. And I'm like, okay, that's fun. I mean, Diglett never really looked like a mole anyway, so you might as well make it into a garden eel. Wugtrio. So it's funny because I actually didn't think Wugtrio was going to be a thing. I forgot what my reasoning was, but I didn't think it was going to be a thing. Like, I thought for sure we were not getting a Wugtrio. Oh, because I think one of the trailers showed 3 Wiglets together. And I was like, oh, well, if you showed all 3 of them together, that's kind of implying that there's not going to be a Wugtrio. But sure enough, there was a Wugtrio. And it is really funny how they're all just kind of popping out of the same rock now. That's funny. I mean, this thing is just unabashedly a ripoff of Diglett, but it's funny. Everyone loves Diglett. I love Diglett. I don't mind. I was delighted when I saw that it's just like Trainer is about to send out Wugtrio. I'm like, they did it. They made Wugtrio. Bombirdier, the item drop Pokemon. I kind of wish this thing had a pre-evolution. I think it needed a little bit, but I do think it's funny regardless that we essentially just have an evil nursery swan thing. What do you call those? Like the like weird folktale thing of like birds delivering babies to like doorsteps, essentially. We have that, but the evil version of that, because it carries like items and stuff and it just bombs you from the sky. I think that's hilarious. I think it does just enough too to make it kind of a cool little design, because those eyes are just very like ominous, and the wings, and look at those talons. Yikes, those things look like they would mess you up. This thing's really fun. I like this thing a lot. And also, I don't know if it's supposed to like, I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be, but it almost looks like it's wearing like an apron, and it's just holding the apron up in its mouth to form the pouch that it needs to drop bombs on you. I think that's what it is, right? I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it too much. A solid Pokemon all around. Finizen! Finally, we got a dolphin! When I saw this thing for the first time, I was super happy, because the one thing I had been hearing for years and years and years and years is just like, when is Pokemon gonna make a dolphin? When is Pokemon gonna make a dolphin? It's so easy to make a dolphin. And yeah, here it is, the dolphin. And he's really cute. Look at these, look at them. They just, immediately, you see them and you're just like, I just wanna hug them. I just wanna hug these little guys. Look at them, they are so cute. I loved it even more because of Palafin. And at first, it was jarring because, so, okay, I'm gonna toss up the image on the screen because the Pokedex entry doesn't really show it. So it's confusing because Palafin looks exactly like Finizen, right? It just has a heart on its chest, essentially. And I looked at that and I'm like, what? Wait, what? That's it? Like, that's the evolution? And I didn't know about Zero to Hero yet. So then I looked it up and then saw Zero to Hero. So, wow, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So it has this ability called Zero to Hero where you send it out and it's essentially a Finizen. And then if it returns to you in battle and then gets sent out again, it becomes Hero Mode Palafin, which is a superhero dolphin. A superhero dolphin, just straight up Superman, which, look at those pecs too. Okay, apparently it's a reference to the fact that like superheroes, they would like see the supervillains or something bad going down, and then they'll do that thing where they rip open their shirt and it has their logo on it, and they, you know, they have to go run to a booth while I don't know, the Spider-Man theme plays or something, and then they come back and they're the superhero. That's a really fun idea. That's a really, really fun idea. So I'm really into Palafin. I really am. Because at first, while I did like Finizen, I did think, I'm like, okay, it's just, you know, it's just a dolphin. You know, it's a cute dolphin. I like it, but this thing is creative and fun. This thing is so weird, so creative, so fun. Just has that All Might energy to him. It just, wow, love it. Love it, love it, 10 out of 10. Varoom. This one's interesting. I don't know how I feel about Varoom, because it's like an engine on a rock, and it's like poison. It kind of feels a bit all over the place, but it also, it's got that heartless energy a little bit. It kind of has that weird like old-timey kind of thing to it. Like if you were watching a Mickey Mouse cartoon and he had like a car engine or something. I mean, I could imagine it looking like Varoom with those eyes and the mouth, essentially. I'm admittedly not too big of a fan of Varoom, admittedly, but it's just because I feel like it's a bit all over the place in design. Maybe if it wasn't on a rock. Maybe if it didn't look like a little rock thing right there. But I'm sure there's probably a reason for that. I do like Rivaroom. This thing is actually pretty cool. The eye looks pretty cool. I like how the mouth is right under the eye. It looks straight up like an engine. And then like the cylinder on top has teeth. That's cool. That's a pretty cool design. If you had to make a Pokemon out of a car engine, it's a pretty good idea. Rivaroom's pretty cool. Now, again, to talk about the elephant in the room, it helps that this Pokemon is utilized so much with Team Star, because with the car, essentially, which I don't mind spoiling because that was in the trailer. But yeah, they have the Reverum cars. That's really cool. Just the fact that you could put this in, like, supplement it with, like, a weird car form. You can't do it yourself, only Team Star can, but that's a pretty fun idea. That's a pretty fun idea. Now, I do wonder what came first, Reverum's design or the Team Star car design? I wonder what came first. Feels like the Team Star car design came first and then Reverum. But hey, Reverum's cool. Cyclizar. So, this thing's fascinating because they don't put emphasis on it, but I like that they don't. Okay, because here comes the big spoiler, the big one. There's a whole dynamic with paradox Pokemon, and that they're the past and future forms of Pokemon that existed in the far future or the far past. And it's interesting because from day one, we looked at Cyclizar and was like, oh, that's obviously supposed to be like a pre-evolution to Koraidon Miraidon. No, it's actually not a pre-evolution, nor is it really related to them. And in fact, when you go in the game, you only hear it a couple times where it's like, yeah, it kind of looks like a Cyclizar, but that's it. And when you catch it, it brings up no mention that it's related to Koraidon and Miraidon. So you just kind of have to draw your own assumptions, which is actually really cool. This thing is the original form of Koraidon Miraidon from this time, and Koraidon is the version of Cyclizar in the distant past, and Miraidon is the form of Cyclizar from the far future. That's a really cool idea, because, and I'm definitely glad they don't put emphasis on Cyclizar. You can catch one, or you don't have to, you know? It's just, that's what happens. I thought for sure you would get a Cyclizar, and then you would evolve it super quick, and then it would become like Miraidon, Koraidon. But then when you also look in the trailers, you see multiple people having Cyclizar. So you're like, wait a minute, is this thing legendary or not? The whole mystery around the Cyclizar thing is really cool, and I really like it. Now, Cyclizar in and of itself, I think he's okay. Yeah, he's got a cute little design. Again, not a huge fan of the tire thing. Like, that's one of the reasons why I didn't pick Koraidon, is that I don't like the big lumbering tire look. Especially when it's supposed to be crawling. I always thought that looked a little bit jarring. I like Cyclizar enough. Orthworm. I didn't know about this thing either. I didn't get this thing spoiled. So when I saw the one that appears in the game, and I think it's on stream too. Yeah, I did do it on stream. Oh my god. I was so shocked and appalled. I'm like, what is that? What I had no idea what to expect. I'm like, is it cute? Is it gonna be a monstrosity? What is this thing? I do think the initial shock is better than the actual Pokemon in and of itself. Because I do think the actual Pokemon is kind of fine. I don't know. Like, if you had to make a steel earthworm... Actually, wait a minute. Is it a steel earthworm? Yeah, it is a steel earthworm. Okay. Yeah, if you had to make a steel earthworm, that's pretty much spot on. I think he's got a cute design. These single stage Pokemon are always really hard to pull off in my mind. They're fighting an uphill battle with me because I like progression and I like seeing progression. So if you're a single stage Pokemon that doesn't evolve or evolve from anything, you have to be something really cool. I don't think Orthworm pulls this off necessarily, but you know what? As like a one-time thing, I like him enough, I think. Glimmet. Okay, I don't know. I feel pretty neutral towards Glimmet. I could take it or leave it, honestly. The eyes are cool. I appreciate it as eyes. Like, I feel like if it didn't have eyes, it would kind of be boring, because, I don't know. It's just kind of a strange little Pokemon design. From what I see, people like it, though. So, I don't know. Again, maybe they're catching something I'm not. I don't know. Glimora. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this thing is like, I think it's supposed to be like a subtle, you could kind of relate it to the Terra Shards a little bit. Very fascinating little Pokemon here. Very fascinating. I don't think it necessarily sticks with me though. Oh, but to be fair, it does have that heartless energy. It has those yellow eyes and such. Okay, you know what? I think this is definitely a case of like, I probably should just raise one myself and maybe I'll be able to grasp this thing. Because yeah, it's got a simple design and it's not necessarily working in my mind, but I think there's something here. It's kind of a cool idea. Especially when you relate it to the whole Terra Shard shenanigans. Greavard. Oh my god. Okay, real quick, I just don't like the name. I wish they could have made it a little bit more seamless of a name, because I always feel like I'm pronouncing it the wrong way. Like Grievard? Graveyard? Grievard? Do you just say it Grievard super fast? But this thing's cute. I like Grievard. I think the bone on its head is a little tacky, but when you get what this Pokemon's supposed to be, I think it comes full circle. Now, I do think this region kind of has a dog problem. There are a lot of dogs with Mabostiff and Dachsbun. I do think the Grievard family is my favorite of the three, though. I actually really like these guys. I love that they have like the shaggy fur that covers their eyes, and I love those big jaws. Why does everything look like a Heartless in this game? Okay, last Heartless comparison. It has those Heartless teeth. It's just a cute little design, and I love the little trailer reveal for Grievard with the candle and it hides under the ground. That's fun. He's a fun little dog. Houndstone is rad. This thing is cool. This thing is really, really cool. Man, I didn't really like the candle look, but then I saw the tombstone and I was like, okay, I like this thing now. And man, having the shaggy fur cover essentially the skeleton body now is really, really cool. And it's a great idea. Because with Grievard, it wasn't really covering anything. It was just a dog, you know? With this, it's hiding like a monstrosity of a dog underneath. And that's really cool. Like the bone feet and tail and the jaw, this thing is rad. And you absolutely know I use this thing. This thing is really cool. Also, fun fact, as of right now, apparently it's banned from like competitive Pokemon. Because I guess this thing is really powerful because it gets a move called Last Respects that gets 50 power added to it when a Pokemon faints in your party. So I guess that was enough to get it banned, which is just very dumb. Again, it's at the time. Apparently this is banned. I'm sure it'll get overruled at some point. I just find that to be a very interesting little thing that's happening to this Pokemon because I think it's a cool Pokemon. I don't think, judging from how it performs and such, I don't think it's like a monstrosity of a Pokemon. But it's just weird that, like, of all the Pokemon in Paldea, they're like, no, Houndstone. We have to stop Houndstone. This thing is the strongest thing you've ever seen. It's like, I don't think it's that crazy. It's just a bone dog. Flamigo! Okay, I love this picture. Now, I have heard the critique that this thing is literally a flamingo. And I'm unfortunately inclined to agree. I don't think this thing does enough to constitute being a Pokemon. The only thing it does, essentially, which is... This is so weird. Apparently it ties its neck in a knot, which you could see, to stop power flowing out of its body and going through its mouth. That is the weirdest thing. It's funny, but that is the weirdest thing ever. I don't know. I feel like Flamigo could have just a little something more, because when I use this thing, I'm like, it just looks like I'm using a flamingo. I don't know. Like, I just, again, me personally, I don't like Pokemon that are just flat out things, you know? I want a little creative edge to it, or I just want Pokemon that are just straight up original out the gate. Flamigo doesn't do enough for me. And it sucks too, because I actually really like Flamingos. Citadel! This thing is adorable. Oh my gosh. I love Citadel. When you find these little guys in the game, man, they are so cute. Their cry is so adorable, and they just look so hyped for everything. I loved my time with my Citadel. This thing is so cute. I guess it's based on like a whale, I guess? I don't know what kind of whale. It's just this weird whale that's on land, and he's just hyped. I don't know what else to say. I guess I don't really have a lot to say. I just think, you know, when you look at Citadel, you see what you get. He's a terror whale, and he's also made out of ice. Cititan is rad. This thing is cool. I've liked Cititan since day one. I was scared because I didn't know if this thing was gonna evolve or anything. Thank God that Citadel's in the family, so you can see the progression. Again, I love it when Pokemon evolve. But this thing is really cool. Its cry is also really cool too. Like when this thing comes out, it feels like menacing. And I'm like, ooh, should I be using this? So Titan's red. Yeah, I mean, if you were gonna have a whale with feet on land, you could do worse than Titan. He's just really cool. King Gambit. That's what his name is? I thought he was called something else. I mean, I'm a sucker for this guy. This guy is awesome. He is so good. Now, I didn't necessarily need an evolution to Bisharp. I feel like Bisharp has just a very solid design that you didn't really... I don't know, I didn't really see like anything to improve on, really. But the fact that they turned it into like... Okay, what... I want to say like the proper thing here before I start like just saying stuff. Yeah, okay. Yeah, based on a samurai and a feudal era Japanese military commander. Yes, okay. That is a cool idea. Turning Poniard into that is a cool idea. And it flows from Bisharp excellently. I love that the silver became gold. Just to like add on that this guy means business. Like he's the big boss. And he has like the mustache and like the long helmet thing, which usually I would look at that and be like, that's tacky. But especially as someone who recently played Ghost of Tsushima, I was just like, okay, this is really cool. It is a Japanese feudal military commander. That's really rad. Also, the way you evolve it is raw as heck. So what you need to do, hopefully I get this right, you have to have a Bisharp that defeats 3 other Bisharp that specifically are with packs of Poniard. So basically, these Pokemon are in packs sometimes in Paldea, where they'll be around their pre-evolutions, and they'll be kind of like, you know, the pack leader or like, you know, the mother of the group. And you just essentially have to have a Bisharp and just beat the crap out of those other Bisharp that lead the Poniard. And once you do that 3 times, you get this guy. That is cool. This might be like, conceptually, this might be like my favorite after gen evolution ever, just conceptually. But just aesthetically, this thing is already just great. This is so good. What a great evolution. Again, it's just like, I didn't know I needed this either. Bisharp was already cool enough, but then this guy just comes in and was just like, you are not samurai. And I was like, man, oh, it's so good. Veluza, So I'm not usually into the fish that don't evolve. Something about regular Pokemon that don't evolve, like that alone, it's just like, eh. But when it's fish, somehow it's even worse. Like, there's nothing worse than a fish Pokemon that doesn't evolve. And this is another fish Pokemon that doesn't evolve. But I think if you're gonna have a fish Pokemon that doesn't evolve, Veluza's pretty cool. Now, this thing is like aggressive and crazy. This thing is like straight up frightening. I don't know if it's like a piranha, I don't think it is, but like when you see this thing, it's just like, get away from me. That is super scary right there. And even though it's not a steel type, it immediately reminded me of Banjo-Kazooie of all things. Which for those of you who've played Banjo-Kazooie, you probably know where I'm going with this. It reminds me of that freaky fish trash monster. The garbage shark, Clanker. Yeah, it reminds me of Clanker so much. And that thing always freaked me out so much. So seeing Veluza just immediately made me shoot back. It was like, oh god, it's Clanker again. I kind of wish this thing was a steel type. I'm actually kind of surprised it's not, but I mean, water psychic's still cool. At least it's not just pure water. That would have been disappointing. But yeah, single stage, I don't know. Dondozo. So this one is the one where I'm just like, okay, you're the cool single stage fish. This thing is actually pretty rad. He's got a cool little relationship with Tatsugiri, which we'll get to Tatsugiri. But this thing is actually pretty cool. He's got like a pretty cool design to him. He just looks very imposing and impressive when you see him in game, for sure. I do find it comical that Game Freak was essentially just like, hey, let's just make Whiscash but cooler and bigger. And it paid off. I think this thing is just a cool looking dude. And also it just loves sushi, literally, because Tatsugiri is like found right next to it, and you see it right there in the Pokedex entry. It's got a cool double battle strategy going on with Tatsugiri too. Very interesting relationship between these two. And I think it's worth exploring because without the context of the other one, these Pokemon fail, I think. I mean, Dodonzo alone is actually pretty rad on his own, but I think he would just kind of fall to the wayside if it wasn't for this weird Tatsugiri relationship thing. And Tatsugiri would have absolutely fallen to the wayside without Dodonzo. When I first saw Tatsugiri, I was just kind of confused because it's a water dragon type, but it doesn't evolve. When I first saw this thing, I actually thought it was supposed to be like the pseudo-legendary. Like, I thought it was going to evolve into the pseudo-legendary or whatever. And I was just kind of shocked. I'm like, oh wait, you don't evolve? Well, what's the point of you? But yeah, he's a dragon water type based on Sushi. I think together these two are pretty great. I love the combination of these two. They're very great together. Alone, not so much. Together, they're great. Also, it gets, this Sushi fish gets 2 other colors that it can have, so that's fun. I miss Minior, man. Great Tusk. Okay, we're already here. I guess we're nearing the end of the Pokedex, because I think that's all the regular Paldean Pokemon now. I'm pretty sure. Okay, well, I guess before we get started on the Paradox Pokemon, I do have to preface with this. I don't really like the future ones. I'm not a big fan. And so, while I don't hate them, just know that they are facing an uphill battle because I just love the natural, like, prehistoric look of some of these Pokemon. Well, maybe not natural, but I like the prehistoric natural look, you know, in terms of, like, you know, this thing existed, it's not like a robot, essentially. So yeah, just know that. And it's funny too, because as someone who prefers Koraidon, and prefers the prehistoric Pokemon, and prefers Sada, you're probably asking, why the heck did you get Violet? 2 reasons, man. 1, I'm a fashionista. I love the Violet outfits, they look way better in my opinion. 2, Miraidon just looks better as a motorcycle. I don't like that tire lump, so yeah, those are my canon reasons. Okay, now we can finally get started. Great Tusk is the past version of Donphan, and I'm just gonna make that claim. I know it's not supposed to be like, oh, we don't know if it's actually Donphan. It's like, yeah, it's a Donphan, look at it. I love the idea that, 1, Donphan got something else done with it, for 1, because Donphan has always been just a really cool Pokemon for me, and the fact that they essentially just made Donphan into a Mamoswine, that's really cool. In fact, it's kind of funny, because with the context of the Paradox Pokemon now, and if you had just waited, you probably could have just turned Piloswine into like a Paradox Pokemon, and then just made like a Mamoswine out of that. Huh, crazy. But to be fair, that was like 2006 when Sinnoh came out. Oh god, no, I don't want to think about that. Anyway, Great Tusk, really cool. He looks menacing. Look at those things. That looks crazy. I really like this guy. Now, I do have to look up their types, because their types are very fascinating too, because they aren't just straight up their original forms. Yeah, this thing is ground fighting. Yeah, this thing looks like it would mess you up. Yeah, this thing is really rad. And I like how Donphan rolls, but this version has like spikes. This thing is meant to hurt you. I don't know. This thing is intimidating and awe-inspiring, and I'm all for it. This thing is awesome. I'm sure Donphan fans are eating good tonight. I'm just gonna say. Screamtail. Oh man. Yeah, when I saw this thing, I was like, oh no. Yeah, so this is the past version of Jigglypuff, who has a tail. Oh no. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't literally have a tail. It's just its head puff has like a tail on it, so it kind of has a tail. I guess that's where it comes from. But yeah, this thing kind of looks like, I don't know how to describe it, but there's something really eerie about just seeing Jigglypuff like this, like just a more predatory Jigglypuff. I mean, saying those words out of my mouth just sounded really funny. Just a very predatory Jigglypuff. Yeah, it's interesting seeing a Jigglypuff that had to survive like the harsh past, essentially, and it has teeth, and it just looks like it would mess you up. And one thing that's very fascinating about these Paradox Pokemon is they don't evolve at all. So there's no Paradox Igglybuff and there's no Paradox Wigglytuff. What you see is what you get. It's very fascinating. and they're very strong. I don't know if these guys are like Ultra Beast level. I haven't actually tapped into that side yet, but it looks like these guys are kind of like the spiritual successors to the Ultra Beast. Yeah, if I had to quantify it, they feel like Ultra Beast without actually being Ultra Beast. Like, I feel like Ultra Beasts kind of have this weird cursed design to them, and they kind of feel like you shouldn't have them, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like it's like you have them and it's like, I shouldn't use this, you know? I feel like the Paradox Pokemon are kind of the same, where it's just like, you're kind of feeling weird for not using a natural Jigglypuff, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying in a way of just like, oh, I shouldn't use this thing, I'm gonna use a Jigglypuff. No, use it. I'm just saying it's just like, it has this kind of like otherworldly feel to it. And yeah, I like Paradox Pokemon way more than Ultra Beasts, if I'm being frank. Not to mention, I also like it that we now have a strong Jigglypuff, essentially. I find that really fun. Brute Bonnet. This thing is cool. I was never really that big of a fan of Amoonguss, and seeing it get touched up like this is really cool. And yeah, it does look kind of scary. Like, it has that weird cursed mouth and those eyes. I don't know what it is about them having those yellow eyes, but man, it just, something about it, it's just like, oh no. I do find it funny that it still has the Pokeball designs on it. So you kind of have to imply that the Pokeball design existed before Pokeballs did. So essentially, all Pokeballs are based on Amoonguss, which is fascinating. I think this thing does just enough to, like, bring up Amoonguss for me, too. Again, not a huge fan of Amoonguss, but I do like this thing. And I love the, I don't know what you call it, but whatever's hanging down from the mushroom. That just looks cool. It's a cool looking one. Flutter Mane. So, again, Mischievous fans are eating good tonight. This thing is fascinating because it is just Mischievous, but way more fully realized. Those eyes are so freaky. I don't know what it is about, like, the blood red against, like, the yellow and, like, the weird snake eyes, but it's just like, man, this thing, they don't look friendly. I like this thing, though. Now, I'm more of a Mismagius kind of guy, but the thing is, I can accept this. Like, that's actually really cool that Mischievous got this kind of, like, you can essentially use Mischievous now, but, like, a cooler version of Mischievous, essentially. What I really, really like about this thing, though, is that not only is it strong, but it became a dual type, which I had been begging for years at this point. Because one of my biggest irks with Mismagius is that it's the magic Pokemon, but it's not, like, it's just a ghost. And I'm just like, wait, if you made like a witch ghost, why not make it like a psychic type or something? But they didn't, and I was just like, why? I don't get it. But Flutter Mane is actually a ghost fairy. So I finally kind of got that a little bit, where I'm like, finally, you got a dual type, yay! I like Flutter Mane. That's a really fun idea. Again, more of a Mismagius guy, but I can appreciate some Mischievous love. Slither Wing. So this one, and then another Volcarona up here. Man. So it's so interesting seeing Volcarona, which already looks like a prehistoric beast in and of itself, get another, like, form. And this is like the prehistoric Volcarona, the Slither Wing. Yeah, it definitely looks prehistoric too. I'm a fan. I like this thing. It looks like you would be, like, I don't know, at Disneyland or something, and you're going through, like, the little dinosaur part, and there would just be a Slither Wing off to the side or something. It's like, oh man, look at how the bugs look back then, you know? It kind of feels like that, and I'm into it. Sorry, very specific reference. But I can appreciate the Volcarona, I can appreciate the Volcarona love out the gate, because Volcarona's always been in a weird spot, because it feels like it would be good, but it's not really that good. And it's just cool to be able to see, like, the ancient Volcarona. It's awesome. Sandy Shocks. I don't know how I feel about this one. I think this one might be the dud of the past Paradox Pokemon. I don't know what it's supposed to be based on. I mean, okay, it's still Magneton, but it's like Magneton with legs, and it's like collecting something. I don't know. I like the mouth. The mouth is really cool, and I like how it has that prehistoric makeup. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's electric ground type. Okay. I will, okay, it looks like in some art, you could kind of put in perspective a little bit better, because I think it's supposed to look like hair, essentially. So it kind of just looks like it's just rocking like wild caveman hair. Okay, that's okay. I mean, it's fascinating that Magneton existed in the distant past. That's interesting, especially because it feels like a Pokemon that would come from the future. Okay, I'm gonna read the biology of this thing because I do wanna look at this thing. And hey, we're technically in biology class, so I'm sure Jock would help us out here. Yeah, let's see. Sandy Shocks is a robotic Pokemon with a body comprised of 3 units, blah, 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 blah. They resemble Magnemite. It is said to resemble a Magneton that lived for 10,000 years. There have been many sightings of Sandy Shocks where no one apparently has been able to capture it. Sandy Shocks is known to be very aggressive, attacking anyone who has seen it. It takes its name from the matching description in the Scarlet book. Interesting. Man, I just think these things are just so cool. You know, I mean, even with the quote-unquote dud Paradox Pokemon from the past that I'm not really as big of a fan of, it still sounds so cool. And I just love this idea way more than the Ultra Beast. So, again, not my favorite, like, Paradox Pokemon from the past, but hey, it's cool. It's cool enough. Iron Treads. Okay, so now we're getting to the ones from the future. And again, uphill battle, not really a big fan. Iron Treads is weird because I think this Pokemon, you have to look at it from the right angle. Because looking at it like this, I don't like this thing. Because it's like, yeah, it's a Dawn fan, but is it really? It just looks like the face doesn't look like a Dawn fan. It just kind of has the nose and the tusks. It just kind of looks meh. But if you look at it from a certain direction, you're like, oh, now I see the Dawn fan. Okay, I could dig this. Is it the worst thing ever? No. I feel fairly neutral on it, honestly. I'll probably never really use it. It's just kind of there. Iron Bundle. Oh man. So this thing freaked me out. Again, having Pokemon from the like far off future that look like that is freaky, and I don't like it. But in a good way. I don't like it in a good way. Cause it looks like a weird wind-up toy Delibird, and when you see it in battle, apparently it doesn't move. At least from what I see, it doesn't really move. So it just feels so uncanny and weird. Also, I love that this thing is strong, because it's just like, you fools all laughed at Delibird for all these years, and Delibird is finally getting its revenge. And it actually makes sense, too, because this thing is from the future, so. Yeah, what a fascinating Pokemon. What a fascinating one. Iron Hands, so it's a future Hariyama. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I don't really know how to talk about the future Paradox Pokemon, because I feel like there was more to appreciate with the past ones. Because like, oh, I see how that became this and that, blah, blah, blah. With the future stuff, it's interesting because it really just goes down to just like, it's a robot now. And the tech got smaller. It's interesting because it looks like a thinner Hariyama, which is interesting because Hariyama is like a thick boy. And the future one is just, it's a much leaner design while trying to keep the big parts of it where it counts, essentially, with the hands and like the form. It's fascinating. Yeah, an electric fighting type. Fascinating. Iron Jugulus. I think this is straight up the dud of the future Paradox Pokemon. I really don't like this thing. I really don't. Because, okay, like, I love Hydreigon. And this thing just kind of looks like, okay, I mean, out the gate, it has like a weird, like, Disney's electrical parade feel to it, which that's fun, that's funny, but it just looks like a Hydreigon toy. And it's just kind of like, it just took Hydreigon and just made it into like a big toy. And I'm like, oh, okay. Not the biggest fan personally. The wings kind of look a little weird too. I think the thing is with Hydreigon, I love Hydreigon and I love to see it get love. Maybe they should have pushed it to the prehistoric side and maybe did another Pokemon for the future. I don't know. Again, I don't want to make that comparison a lot because I'll be here all day saying all these things should have looked prehistoric anyway, because that's not fair, because it's Scarlet and Violet. But I don't know. I think there was a better Pokemon to pick to like get a future look, I think. I'm not a big fan of the Hydreigon one. Iron Moth. Yeah. Oh man. Turning Volcarona and just robbing it of all that beauty and serenity and just making it into a cold machine. Man, it's so eerie. Again, in a good way though. Like those LED eyes, like it just feels like the magic of Volcarona just isn't there. It looks like it's just a weird Dr. Eggman contraption or something. Again, like in a good way though. Like I don't hate the future Paradox Pokemon. Like I like that there's a lot of like spirit robbed out of it, essentially. It's very grim, but kind of like how the Ultra Beasts were. Do you guys get me? Do you guys get me? It has this kind of like weird nightmarish feel to it. Like imagine if there was a Pokemon game where it was set in like an apocalypse or something, and all you found were like future Paradox Pokemon. I mean, well, to be fair, I guess any Pokemon that aren't normal would be scary, but man, that'd be just freaky finding these robot Pokemon. So freaky. Iron Thorns. Oh man, as a Tyranitar fan, I'm quaking right now. Now, I will say out the gate, it's hilarious because we've had an Iron Tyranitar before, but with Pokestar Studios, and it was kind of like based on Mechagodzilla. So I'm definitely glad we finally got a canon Mechagodzilla to use. This one's probably my favorite future Paradox Pokemon. Again, the Godzilla comparisons with Tyranitar are just big and obvious. So seeing it get a Mechagodzilla like counterpart, I'm all for it, and I love it. I love this thing. I obviously haven't caught one yet. I may do it, because this thing is actually pretty rad. I don't know what else to say. It's a rock electric Tyranitar. That's fun. That's a really fun idea. And I love how its spikes shoot out. Like, its spikes aren't really part of its body. They shoot out. Wow. And it like glows too. This thing is great. This is like peak future Paradox Pokemon for me, unless another one showed up. Okay, so Frigibax. When I first saw this thing, especially because I was running through the Pokedex, I was just like, wait a minute, did I miss a Trico? Like, was there something with Trico in this generation and no one told me? Was it like the biggest surprise ever? Because I was running through this, I'm like, wait a minute, is there like a past version of Trico? What is this? Because look at that thing. That thing has violent Trico energy. Oh my god, like the head, the nose, the eyes, kind of the mouth. Like this thing looks like a Trico, absolutely. But it's apparently the pseudo-legendary, which is very cool. This thing is actually pretty rad. Now, I don't know what it's based on. I should probably look that up real quick. Oh wow, not even Bulbapedia knows what it's based on. I mean, apparently, judging from the evolutions, it says it's supposed to be a Komodo dragon. So it's like an ice Komodo dragon. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. This is a really fun little first stage though. Man, that's really fun. I really like this little guy. Arctibax, pretty cool. I think it definitely has that like second stage syndrome a little bit. I mean, that happens a lot with pseudo-legendaries where the second stage will be like, oh, you're just kind of there, you know. You're not the cute little tough first stage, and you're not the awesome third stage. You're just kind of there. I kind of feel the same with Arctibax a little bit. I will say it's interesting how this generation buffs so many ice types. They gave ice types a lot of love in this generation because ice types are infamously the worst type in the game. And when I saw that there was gonna be an ice pseudo legendary, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But I think Game Freak decided to buff ice types so much because like, well, we want to do more with ice, but ice types are bad. So because now instead of like hail, it's snow. I think hail's still in the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but snow is now a thing. And I guess frostbite is in the game. I'm pretty sure. Okay, actually, sad to say, and I didn't want to spend all day Googling, but I don't know if Frostbite's back because it was in Legends Arceus. I don't know if it's back in Scarlet and Violet. I'm pretty sure it is, but I've also seen Pokemon get frozen, and it was supposed to be like a replacement for getting frozen. So sorry, I can't say if Frostbite's back or not. Sorry, it's still relatively new. But yeah, ice types are getting a buff, and thank God for it. Baxcalibur, man, this thing is cool. This thing is cool. An ice dragon. That's fun. Because I'm always scared to say, like, we haven't gotten a Pokemon of this type yet, because then I learned we did. I know about Kyurem. Of course I do. I love Unova, so. But having a little Diet Kyurem, I'm all for it. An ice dragon is a really fun idea. And man, look at that Pokedex picture. It goes so hard, man. A Komodo dragon is a really fun animal, and it's cool to see a pseudo-legendary based on a Komodo dragon. I'm into it. Gimmighoul. Oh man, I like Gimmighoul. When I first saw this thing in Pokemon Go about a month ago, I think it was a month ago from when I'm recording this, I really like this little guy. I will say out the gate, I like this guy more than Meltan. I think this is way more of a fun little guy than Meltan was. Because it's not only like just a coin, it's a little like Reddit ghost. It looks like the Reddit mascot. It looks like a little Reddit ghost who collects coins all over the region and just hides from everyone. And oh my god, it's fun finding them all over the place and collecting their coins, and they just like take off. And you see them in little chests and stuff. They're fun. They're fun. These are fun little guys. They're really fun. Also, I love their eyes. Their eyes are so funny to me. It almost looks like they're wearing these weird like sunglasses or like popple eyes or something. I don't know. I'm into it. And their expression is great too. Oh my god. Yeah. So once I learned about this thing, I was just like, are you kidding me? So I didn't know Gimmighoul was gonna evolve, but Gimmighoul does evolve when you get 999 coins in the game. It evolves into Golden Go. Having a gold Pokemon is really fun. And no, I'm not counting Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh isn't a gold Pokemon, even though it's from Pokemon Gold. But having a Pokemon made out of gold is a really fun idea. But not only is it made out of gold, it looks like it's straight from the 90s. Like, this thing looks like a mascot to like a string cheese commercial that played in the 90s, hypothetically. Like, it feels like using this thing feels like I'm using Chester Cheetah or something. It has like a surfboard, and its expression is just like, yeah, what's up, dude? And I'm like, what are you? You're so weird. Oh man, and it has like a move that shoots coins out called Make It Rain, and it's like a really strong steel move. I think it's like Steel Overheat. I think it's the only other move other than Payday that actually pays you. This thing was designed to be loved by me. This might be one of my favorite Paldean Pokemon. I love Golden Go. He's so stupid, but in a great way. Okay, so getting to these. Now, again, you take these with a grain of salt. I haven't met these yet. I've seen them in Terra raids, unfortunately, you know. I got them all spoiled, essentially, because people wanted to show them off, which, you know, that's on me. But yeah, you find these things all over the region, and they're connected to these guys. I don't know the whole lore with it. I guess they're based on, like, Chinese legend or something? I'm gonna look up the lore to these guys, because I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah, they're part of the Treasures of Ruin. Let's see, Wo-Chien may be modeled after a snail, most likely a whelk. Its shell's based on bamboo slips. Ooh. Narrow strips of bamboo used as writing media prior to the induction of paper. Interesting. By the way, I'm getting this from Bulbapedia. Let's see, yeah, Wo-Chien may be a combination of Wo, which is Chinese for snail, and Jian, which is Chinese for bamboo slips. Fascinating. Wow. You know, I don't want to speak on it, you know, because I don't know what I'm talking about, but these things feel legendary looking at them. And I'm into it. Like, it's really cool to have that, like, I don't know, have that kind of like Chinese mythology kind of feel to it. Again, I don't know if these things are based on specifically stuff in Chinese mythology, but they definitely have that energy to them, especially with the names. But they're really cool. This thing is cool. I much prefer these to the Tapus. I feel like these are obviously the Tapus of the game, and I much prefer them to the Tapus. Qian Pao. This thing is cool. Who knew Barioth finally made it to Pokemon? This thing is pretty cool though. I'm a fan. I love like the long body. I like that it's not traditionally like I'm a big bulky Pokemon, essentially. Big bulky legendary. Let's see, Qianpao may be based on a snow leopard, though its body proportions are more similar to that of weasels, or some depictions of the tatzelworm. Interesting. Well, its elongated fangs may be inspired by the prehistoric Smilodon. Smilodon? Someone. Yeah, that's what I thought of at first. Like, I'm like, it kind of has an Ice Age energy to it. Qianpao may be a combination of Jian and Bao, which is Chinese for leopard. Interesting. Again, I love the aesthetic of these guys. These guys are really rad. Ting Lu. I was scared at first that Ting Lu's head was its weird bowl helmet thing that it was wearing. But no, it does have its head underneath, which, how does this even look with terrestrialization now that I think about it? Huh. You know, actually, now that I look at it too, it kind of looks like Midna. It kind of looks like Midna's helmet from like a certain angle. Ting Lu may be based on a moose or an elk. The vessel on its head is based on a ding, an ancient Chinese cauldron that serves as a symbol of imperial authority. Ooh. Ting Lu may be a combination of ding and lu means deer. Oh, that is cool. That's cool. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that the Treasures of Ruin Pokemon are just like, wow, that's cool, moving on, but all I could just do is just look at them and be impressed. These are just very solid designs for Pokemon, and you know, if I'm saying, like, these are better than the Tapus, that should make you happy. I don't think the Tapus were that bad, they just weren't my favorite by any means, but these things, like, these are way better than the Tapus. And I also appreciate they're not like the stupid Musketeer trio. I don't really like them much either. Like these guys feel like they have like ideas behind them, and I'm a fan. Chi-Yu, I don't know why I say it like that. Chi-Yu, man, oh, it's so good. This might be my favorite of the three. This thing is really rad. It's just gorgeous. I don't know what to say. It's a dark fire type. This thing is gorgeous. Its body is made out of fire, too. Oh my goodness. Chi-Yu may be modeled after members of the Cyprinae family? Cyprinae? Especially the goldfish. Okay, it's goldfish. Yeah, it's a goldfish. The beads around its eyes make it particularly similar to the telescope eye and celestial eye breeds. Ooh. The curved beads on its eyes are based on Magatama. Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to say it though. Comma-shaped beads made out of jade that served as ceremonial and religious objects. What a great idea. These are so cool. And you know, as someone who doesn't usually like fish Pokemon on terms of like, I feel weird using a fish Pokemon because if it's not in the water, it just looks strange, and then on land it just floats. I can use Chi-Yu because it's made out of fire. It's a fire goldfish. Thank you, Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu may be a combination of Jiyu, which is Chinese for goldfish, and Yu, which is Chinese for jade. Solid. I like this little guy. Dark fire, I'm into it. Really cool. Roaring Moon. Okay, I should look this up right now before I start making brash assumptions. I'm pretty sure this thing is from the past. Actually, no, it is from the past, duh, because I forgot about Iron Valiant. Yeah, Roaring Moon. It is kind of funny that they decided to give Salamence love of all Pokemon. And it's cool because this thing is a reference to its Mega Evolution. Which, good on ya, Game Freak. I thought you would never address it ever again. You would just pretend it never existed. But it's cool that this thing is a reference to the Mega Evolution, because the Mega Evolution is a callback to how it used to look. Awesome, 10 out of 10. Thank you, Game Freak. This thing looks awesome, though. It's a Dragon Dark type, which is kind of funny that it's just like, all right, you know, look at me, I'm the new Hydreigon now. But I appreciate it. I think Salamence needed a little something, and I think this is just enough. It's loud without being overbearing. Like, I look at this thing and I'm like, yeah, you're really cool, and you look like you're gonna mess me up. And Roaring Moon, wow. Just, wow. What a great idea. A prehistoric Salamence, this thing would absolutely be a monster, and I'm glad it's represented as such. Iron Valiant, oh man. So, unfortunately, I did get Iron Valiant spoiled for me very early on, but I looked at it and I'm like, oh, it's like a Paradox Gallade, okay. But no, it's not just a Paradox Gallade. It's, man, where do I even get started? It's like a weird mad scientist contraption from what I see and what I read, and it looks like it's been streamlined in order to be both Gallade and Gardevoir. And this thing is a fairy fighting type, which is essentially confirming that, because Gardevoir is a well, they're both psychic types, but Gardevoir has the fairy exclusively and Gallade has the fighting exclusively. This is just them together. So that alone is like very fascinating to me. This thing kind of has that eerie flavor to it too. As someone who loves Gallade, this was just like crazy to see. Just a robot Gallade that was just super powerful. Oh man, I think it's pretty rad. I like that its arms unfold into that weird like Darth Maul scythe right there. I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. From what I see on other art, it seems like it usually has Gallade hands, and then it's like, I don't know if I'm making this claim. People are gonna hate on me later, it's fine. It looks like it has like a Darth Maul like weapon right there, and man, crazy. This thing pretty much just looks like fan service Gallade, and I'm all here for it. I don't mind if the Paradox feature Pokemon are a little crazy with design, because I feel like that's where you put it. That's why I had the issues with Armarouge and Ceruledge, is I feel like they looked a little bit too cool for being natural. I don't mind it when you go over the top, extreme insanity when it comes to like legendary Pokemon forms or Ultra Beasts or just something that's not natural, quote unquote. That's why Black and White Kyurem also didn't bother me, because I'm like, well, they're fusions. They're supposed to look insane, you know? It's like, yeah, this thing, if it was like a regular Pokemon, it'd be a mess. This thing looks weird. But as a fusion, it works. I'm kind of getting the same feeling from Iron Valiant over here. So, yeah, I'm a fan. He's pretty cool. Or she. I actually don't know. Well, I guess it's technically a robot, so it. Oh, here we are, Koraidon and Miraidon. So, yeah, just to preface this again, I like both these guys. I will just say that. I like both of them. They're both rad. But in battle, man, these things look great. They look so cool, man. Oh, man, I'm a fan. They look so great. And what I like about these things, too, is that Game Freak, I love what they're doing with legendary Pokemon nowadays. That they're trying to make you have, like, relationships with the Pokemon themselves before you get a chance to catch them. You get to grow and know them sometimes, but this one was just like, this took the cake. Because, yeah, Nebby, okay, well, I think Nebby's still superior, honestly. But what was cool about Nebby from Sun and Moon was that you grew with Nebby. The Pokemon was there the whole time, and you saw it grow and evolve, and then eventually become Solgaleo and Lunala, and that was really cool. Koraidon Miraidon is very similar, because you find them and they're considerably weakened. You essentially just have to bring them up to full strength, and then when you do so, you can use them and they're awesome. They're full-on legendary Paradox Pokemon. They're great. It's a good idea. And it was a very creative idea too, because the trailers, it was so mind-blowing, because they showed that they were the mounts of the game. And we were all just like, wait, but aren't they the legendaries? Like, if they're the mounts, that means you get them pretty early on. So what do you do? So it was just, the mystery of it was crazy, because we were just like, wait, do you evolve Cyclizar? What the heck is going on? These two are really, really great. Koraidon in specific, I love that toothless energy. I love it so much. He looks so good as as a Pokemon. And these two, sorry, I guess I'm gonna be addressing them both. These two are probably my favorite legendary since Xerneas and Yveltal. I didn't really like Solgaleo and Lunala, and I didn't really like Zacian and Zamazenta, but these two are great. These two look really cool. I mean, they're big lizards. Of course I'm gonna like them, I guess, because the big feathery look. This thing, Koraidon just looks like a king, like an absolute king and an absolute beast, and it's great. Again, the tire, a bit weird. In battle, looks great. As a mount, not so much, not my cup of tea. That's why I chose Miraidon. But yeah, two very solid Pokemon. And okay, if you haven't seen the shiny yet, I'm just gonna say what the shiny is. So just saying that before anyone freaks out, I'm gonna say what the shiny is. I'm not gonna show it, but it turns black. Shiny Koraidon turns black, and it looks great. And I wanted that to happen because it's literally toothless, and I can't wait until they do an event for Koraidon. Please do an event for Koraidon so I can get one and name it Toothless. Also, it did that, it did the thing where shiny Koraidon isn't overkill, which is really cool, because I love the color black for shinies. It looks really cool. But I think it could get a little overdone if you're not careful. Now, Greninja is a cool shiny, but I feel like it's like too dark. It kind of just looks edgy a little bit. Koraidon, though, has the black coloration, but it looks more like dark gray, and it keeps the colors of the feathers. That is phenomenal design, so I love that one. Anyway, getting away from the shiny design, Miraidon. Yeah, Miraidon, I like it too, not as much as Koraidon, but it's great. As a mount, it's fun. I love its engines and its thrusters. I think it looks a little awkward without legs, but hey, it's gotta look different from Koraidon in some way. But the LED eyes are really fun. The ears that are just electricity shooting out, that's also very fun. It's a very fun design. Now, even though I said like, what was my favorite? Oh, the Tyranitar one. That was my favorite future Paradox Pokemon design. I'm not really counting Koraidon and Miraidon, because it's like, yeah, they're two Paradox Pokemon, but, you know, they're the legendaries. It doesn't count. But yeah, they're both great. They're both great. Oh, right, and the last Pokedex entry just kind of snuck in here, didn't it? Iron Gecko. You know, as a Trico Paradox Pokemon, could be better. Let's see how it does in VGC. Special thanks to my top tier patrons, Chansey, Half-Baked Zelda, and Teru XD.